Today we'll kind of introduce Google Apps. I think it does three things, right? I think it's going to help improve how kids learn. I think it's going to help improve how teachers teach. And most importantly, I think it's going to, in general, make the school more efficient, help the school operate a little bit better. It's kind of an offering where you can use as little or as much as you like. I'm going to give you an overview right now that talks about everything that we have, the benefits of those things, and then later on we're going to get into like how you use all this stuff. So there's some cool things. I actually started working with Google a long time ago, and I think about this all the time, like how did I find things before I Googled them? When I say a long time ago, Google's really like a 12-year-old company. This isn't a company that's been around forever, but today it kind of has a market cap bigger than GM and Ford combined. So this is a huge, impactful company. And what that made me really think about is how quickly technology changes, right? Recently I left home for work and left my cell phone at home, and I just felt kind of naked all day. I just felt exposed, and again, it's really been the last couple of years that cell phones have become kind of a pervasive part of society. You really need one in everyday life. But when I look at classrooms, right, you can go around and look at schools anywhere, brick and mortar schools, by and large, look like they did 100 years ago, right? 100 years ago, we kind of got into that industrial model, delivery of instruction. Hi, good morning. And, we really are trying to give schools the tools to be a little bit more efficient, right? And quite frankly, when I think of kids and learning, no matter where they're going to go, they're going to need these devices. And so, we feel that we have not only a set of software, but also a set of these devices, whether that be tablets or Chromebooks, that are really cheap, really inexpensive, very easy to use, easy to manage, that allows schools to be able to afford this kind of stuff. So that's our goal, right? How do we enhance the delivery of instruction? And how do we put technology in place that enables kids to create with technology, right? I think it's a big difference. I recently was at a class. This is at the University of Pittsburgh, and I spent 3 weeks talking about programming, right? PHP programming. Granted, this is a technical class, but I took a picture because it was just funny to see all these kids that exist out there with these devices. And again, any profession that these kids that are in your schools are going to go into, technical skills are going to be required. So, there was a quote that talked about, and I can't remember the guy, but, a lot of the jobs that you're preparing kids for today, they don't even exist, right? Things are moving so fast. So you'd ask, why isn't technology ubiquitous? Why doesn't every kid have a device? And the reality is, the technology that's been available to schools, which is really the Microsoft stack or the Apple stack, is so expensive. To actually not only just to, buy all that stuff, but to manage it. And again, these licensing fees kind of happen year after year, right? These companies, if in reality, I could sell you a piece of software, that software could work infinitely, but kind of like the car companies, they want to plan that obsolescence because they would go out of business if they could only sell you something one time, right? For schools, it's a little bit different than a business, right? Schools can't essentially increase their revenue, right? They can't become, higher tax rates. That just doesn't happen, whereas a business can kind of grow that. So it puts us in a little bit of a jam. Now, from a management standpoint, so full disclosure, I've worked in schools for the last 15, 20 years. I am the Chief Information Officer of Hempfield Area School District. I do, I see day to day what you guys kind of go through. So I kind of play dual roles. And I'll just tell you, I've been through that whole buying of all the Microsoft stuff. I've had an enterprise agreement out at Microsoft, at Hempfield. We've spent $232,000 a year just to license all of our stuff. We have 13 buildings. So it was a no-brainer for us to kind of say, let's pull that back into our IT budget, right? And use a lot of these Google App tools that are free and, quite frankly, easier to manage, right? So like these Chromebook devices that exist out there, we put 2,000 in our high school last year. We gave every kid a device. We've now gotten all of our curriculum to be digital, right? The actual curriculum cycles that you go through, those are really, really expensive. And so we found all of these great resources out there. And so, for us, it was about scalability. How do we scale that, right? And so these Chromebooks, literally we had a pickup day where the kids came and picked them up. We did not give the kids training because, they can use a web browser. It's that simple. And, from my perspective, I didn't have to update these. I didn't have to put antivirus on them. I didn't have to do anything, right? They update themselves. So, think about my life, I mean, Chris's life or Ross's life, you give kids actual PCs with an actual operating system, they need an antivirus on it, right? Every year they might need new policies on it, they might need to be updated, they get viruses, we gotta remove those viruses. So, in terms of this kind of management of what I call PC technology, it's just very, very difficult, and we think there's an opportunity to be able to streamline that process. Gartner did a study, and it sounds crazy that if you do a one-to-one in schools that it could be $1,281 a year, but it really is, because it's not just the cost of the device. 2 to 3 times the cost of the device is actually what the real personnel cost is to manage this, right? This includes things like downtime and management, your IT staff's costs, and it just makes for a very difficult proposition when you think about having PCs inside schools. When we started with PCs, I mean, I'll go back that 20 years when I started working in schools. It was great, right? They are just that, they're personal computers, right? Today, technology's changed, it's all about collaboration. You can't really collaborate with these personal computers. But what happened over time is, schools started looking like data centers, right? We got spam filters, we have mobile servers, we have content repositories, security systems, backup servers, email servers, right? And this stuff just proliferated. And it was really on guys like me that managed IT in schools to kind of pull all this stuff together. And I'll be honest, I mean, over the years, we've kind of band-aided things together just because we've had limited budgets. School boards never understand about spending money on IT. But what happens is once we buy some stuff, we have to fix it, we have to replace it, we have to update it. And so, we've had to have a real honest talk with our school board about, having a stable IT budget so that we can have these levels of refreshes. And they weren't having that, right? So for us, moving to those Chromebooks were not only a necessity, but it was kind of the right fit for us. In '94, this was Microsoft Word. And I just feel that, most schools out there, as of 3 years ago, were using these, 20-year-old tools, right, for personal computers. This is Word in 2014 with the new updates. It does the same stuff, right? I can still do all of the same features. There really wasn't any incremental growth, but yet, at Hempfeld, we licensed that every year in an enterprise agreement. We paid for it year after year, but we weren't getting that value. So it didn't make sense to us. When we think of using Outlook like you guys had, I mean, how many folks in here are actually, organized? I've always filed things away, right? I get an email in, I got a folder for that, right? And I do that because I want to find it later on. I'm going to tell you, that doesn't scale over time, right? It just doesn't. There are times also when I get an email in, and it might be from Chris, so that could go into my Mount Lebanon folder. I could consider Chris a friend. That could go into my friend folder. So I have to actually make a decision, right? Do I put, because that's how Outlook works. You can't put one email in 2 separate folders, right? So we've kind of solved some of that issue with Gmail, where you can label things, right? So I could put my friend label for Chris and my Mount Lebanon work label. And essentially it's going in 2 separate folders, right? It allows me to find things easier. The big thing that we've really dealt with at Google is search, right? So I've actually stopped foldering things. I still have some folders in there because it was just a habit. But as of the last 2-3 years, I don't put anything in a folder. I just let it load up inside my inbox, and when I want to find something, I search it like I'm searching Google. And Google search will then go across all of your whole entire mail domain, and it'll search all your mails, it'll search all your instant messages, it'll search all your documents, it'll search calendar events, right? So this kind of idea of unified search inside your enterprise tools. The other thing that I think is a limitation of using Outlook, and why I think you guys made the switch, is there's quotas, right? I mean, my job, we spent at Hempfeld, it was $1 million on a storage system. That's just crazy, right? We spent $1 million to store our data. Now granted, we had tons and tons of data. And so what we did is we started limiting people. And we'd say, all right, you have a gig or 2 gigs worth of data. And so a teacher's thinking like, all right, I got this mail in from these parents, do I delete it? Is that more important than the mail I got from a superintendent or another teacher? And I just think that's crazy, right? There should be no quotas. And so one of the things with Google Apps is now you have unlimited number of emails. I don't care if you have 2 million emails inside your email, it's going to be there. Same thing with documents, right? We've now went away from actually storing all of our documents on site at Hempfeld. We store them all in Google Drive, right? I still have As a district, legal ownership over those documents. I still have security and control. In fact, my security and control over those documents and the ability to audit it are much stronger than I even had when those existed inside my building. So it was a big deal for us to be able to kind of break those quotas out. I think it will be here too. And messaging, right? So messaging is really more than just email, right? I mean, we thought of messaging in the Microsoft world of, I have email, and I can send you an email, and we can respond to those emails. But in reality, once we put Google Apps inside Hempfeld, we saw people chatting, we saw them instant messaging, we saw them video conferencing, we saw them multi-person video conferencing. I see teachers will say, I'm going to block these areas off on my calendar for Monday and Thursday, and they're from 5 to 7. And a kid could go sign up on their Google Calendar and get an office hour from that teacher. But the teacher would be in their home, and the student would be in their home, and they had this video platform. We can now manage 25 people in that video conference at the same time. We can also record that actual video conference and then store that inside YouTube. This has been hugely helpful for teachers to be able to interact with not only students and their families, but kind of remove the boundaries of the actual physical school. So it's been a big deal for us. Again, this is really all about collaboration. Personal computers are just that. They're for you. They're not really built for collaboration in that sense. Pre Google Apps inside Hempfeld, let's say, we were applying for a grant, right? A Classroom for the Future grant, whatever it might be. It would require the tech director, it would require a principal, it might require a curriculum director. And so the way we do it is I'd create a Microsoft Word document, and I'd put my stuff in there, and then I'd send that off to 4 people. So Jesse would get it, Sally would get it, Casey would get it. They would go and they'd make their changes, and then I'd have to be the gatekeeper, right? So all 3 of those are attaching it to an email, sending that whole document back to me, and I'm actually trying to pull all these things together. I'm tracking changes. It's a crazy process. And again, I get to this version 2, and I find out that Rachel actually never put her stuff in, right? And so I gotta go through this whole thing again. This revision process is kind of a nuts process, right? So with Google Docs, it's been a godsend for us at Hempfeld in particular, because I create a document, I can share it with everybody in the room, and as you're typing, I actually see character by character changes. I have a full revision history, so if there's something that you typed in that is wrong and I want to change that and edit it, I can actually go back and revert to those previous versions. So it does all the same things as your Microsoft Word does. In fact, you could send me a Microsoft Word document, I can open that up inside Google, I can edit it, and I can save it back as a Word document, and I can send it back to you. So now we have this kind of feature for feature fidelity between Google Apps and Microsoft Office. So it's really, it doesn't work that way the other way around, right? I mean, I can't be in Microsoft Word and take a Google document and edit it, change it, and have that actually take place. So we've kind of went to those levels to be able to have this open platform. So our approach is just a little bit different, right? So we want things to be simple. We want them to be powerful. Technology should be easy for schools. It should be easy to set up and maintain. For us, the focus is on students and learning goals and how to achieve those goals, right? We want to give teachers tools, right? We want to make things easy. We don't want to kind of bring you into these long trainings, right? Month after month after month, when you're not going to want to pay attention to this stuff. I think that in this short session today, I can give you all of the tools to be an expert inside this, because it's simple stuff. One of the things Google's done is it spent a lot of time on researching interface design. So think of it this way. There's probably 700 to 800 million people that have a Gmail account, right? Google never taught any one of those 700 or 800 million people how to use that. They spent money on interface design, kind of like there's a company in the Strip District called My Design. All they do is they figure out ways to make things simple so they don't have to have huge, learning processes to master something. And that's what this is really all about. It's simple. And lastly, it's about engaging students. For us, one of the best things that we could have done out at Hempfeld was give a kid a device. Not only did that impact mom and dad, and they saw that happening and something coming home to the kid, but we're engaging those kids. I mean, even something as simple as being able to, they hear something in class, maybe they're too embarrassed to ask the teacher what that's about. I see a kid just Googling away and finding what those answers are. And it's just, again, it's providing these tools that they're going to need when they get to college or they're getting into their job. We just felt this is an easy way to do that inside our schools. And quite frankly, I didn't increase my IT budget out there. My IT budget has remained flat. I just shifted the way I spent my dollars, okay? So it's about, our approach is using the browser as a universal desktop, using the internet actually as a tool to do computing, right? So all of your apps, all of your data via the browser on any device. So these are the core suite of tools that we've now recently deployed in conjunction with Ross and Chris. You'll have Gmail, right? This is going to be no quotas, unlimited, as much as you can have. And again, integrated with that Gmail is going to be your instant messaging, right? So you have real-time instant messaging. There's also a presence feature around it, right? So you can indicate, tied into your calendar, whether you're available or not, right? So if your calendar is busy, we're going to then be able to have indicators that say, I'm not available at this time. You also have video conferencing built out of that. There's another thing that you'll get is an actual phone number, right? So I'll show you in a little bit. I actually have a Google Voice phone number. And the reason I use that phone number is manyfold, but the first one is I can actually give someone my Google Voice number, and I can change my cell phone as many times as I want. The Google Voice number always stays the same, and I link that with whatever cell phone I'm using, right? When you call me on that Google Voice number, it's going to first ring my cell phone. If I don't answer my cell phone, it's going to ring my office phone. If I don't answer my office phone, it's going to ring my home phone. It's the number that's kind of everywhere, okay? We'll show you that in a little bit. So again, it's more than just email. Messaging is this kind of multiple strategy of like voice, video, and presence, okay? Calendar, this is going to work like your Outlook calendars, but it's going to be shareable. You're going to be able to look into each other's calendars to see when you're free or you're busy. You're going to be able to schedule things like resources, like this room in particular. This actually has a calendar now, right? And you're going to be able to make those requests to be able to grab that. Groups is something that I think you'll find powerful in terms of how to work with your students, right? So instead of, if I want to send an email out to all the kids in my class, I'm not going to go and put 25 emails inside an email address. I'm going to create a group one time. And then from that point forward, I'm going to type in first period English. And that's going to put all the kids' email addresses in that message. Or if I'm sharing something, I can use that same exact group. And it makes things much easier in terms of how to share stuff. Google Sites, you may want to use this for project sites, right? There may be classroom sites. I see schools that actually use it for a full portal and replacing school wires and things like that. I will tell you this, in about 2 months, Google Sites is going to be re-released. It's actually going to be an enterprise-grade product for content management systems. I'm using it now. It's an amazing tool. And at Hempfeld, we're going to get rid of our $17,000 a year school wires account that manages our website there. So that's a huge savings for us. Google Drive, again, this is two things, right? It's storing things, right? And it's also these productivity tools, right? So these are your replacements for Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and drawings. So we have all of our own versions. They work on any device. When you bought a computer before, you'd put Word, PowerPoint, Excel, so forth, Office on that computer. And if I had 3 or 4 computers, I'm actually buying a license for each one of those computers, right? This is the idea of an actual Office productivity suite that works on any device, right? You're not paying anything for that. Google Classroom, again, I hesitate to call it a learning management system, right? I don't think learning management systems, in my opinion, have been used in brick and mortar schools all that much. I think the penetration is very, very small because you're actually with these kids. This is a really cool tool that you can actually push out homework to kids. Kids can actually do the homework, right? It actually creates a little button inside their Google Docs. It might be a Word doc that you created. It's the Google version, right? A Google Doc. And the button will have a turn-in button. So they can create go ahead and do their homework. They click the turn-in button. It's going to come back to you, and you're going to then be able to grade that, right? So there's a lot of really cool tools inside Classroom. It essentially works with your Google Drive, right? All of those various tools that are in there, you can put assignments on them, and then you can distribute those, and you can get that back from kids. And the next one's Hangouts. I should have updated that because
John,
yes.
you don't mind?
Please.
What did you say? Could you go over Vault again? What was Vault?
So Google Vault, every school has to have some level of compliance and e-discovery, right? So let's just say Mr. Zappala decides he wants to subpoena the school, right? Something happened, someone's under investigation, right? The school has a responsibility to respond with that. Or you get an open record request, right? Sunshine Law. And they say, I want all of the emails of, Mr. Chris. And, the district has to turn those over. That's the law, okay? Normally what we did in the past is, Russ or Chris would then go through and they'd go through Exchange. And they'd pull all of those emails, right? Hoping they could find all of those guys, right? And they'd build this file and then they'd turn that over based on that subpoena,
Right.
okay? This, I could actually go ahead and create an account for Mr. Zappala. And I could say, you're able to look at the emails of this person and get the district out of the e-discovery process, okay? So that's what Google Vault is. Google Vault, as of a year ago, was $50 per user, okay? We now give that to schools for free. There's no cost associated with it.
I hope this was them breaking the request.
So it's that, this has saved us at Hempfeld considerable hours, because I'll just tell you, I mean, we're a big district like you, we get open record requests daily. And it's like, it used to be the bane of my existence of, pulling all this stuff together. I also was stressed out, like, did I get all of that? Did I get everything, right? Are we as a district liable because, maybe I missed a record and it looks like I'm hiding that record, right? So I want out of that business, and that's really what this tool will do, is it allows us to get out of that business. Let me give you another example of how I think it can be used. Let's say there is an issue in your schools and a student got hurt, right? It's not easy to ask students what's going on, right? Very hard to uncover the truth about incidents that go on with students in schools. But students do speak across their email and their instant messaging. So, we at Hempfeld, we've had incidences where we've needed to search across our student mail domain, okay? And so, this applies a Google keyword search across that mail domain for students. And so I could say, fight in the gym, right? Or whatever it might be. And then it's gonna go out and it's gonna look up through all the instant messages, emails, and it's gonna allow me as an administrator to pinpoint what's going on, any kind of emergency that I have with students. So it's a powerful tool, very, very powerful. This is used, I actually run Google Stick Contract in PA. We've used, it used to be called a product called Postini. And, the state of Pennsylvania used Postini for all 85,000 employees, right? It's a critical tool, and it's legally, you have to have some sort of tool in place to actually manage that, and that's what that does, a compliance tool. Make sense?
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, last one is Hangouts, as I was mentioning. That now has expanded from 15 people in a conference working on, seeing each other, talking to each other, hearing each other, working on a document together, now expanding that out to 25 people. So that's a really, really powerful tool. Again, if you do a thing called a Hangout on Air, you can actually broadcast that. I see a lot of school districts will actually, for their school board meetings, will broadcast it on a Hangout on Air. On their website, they'll put the link to it. And you'll have a lot of your citizens that have mobility issues that can't actually come into the actual meetings. They click on the link and they can actually participate, right? For your public comment sections where someone can address the board, you can actually open that up and hold people in a queue. So it's a really powerful tool in terms of video conferencing and presence. And again, all of these tools that I'm talking about, these are all free. These cost nothing. They'll never cost anything. This will be free forever. All of the data, the storage, everything comes with it. So we feel that is a powerful offering for schools. Now I just want to go over some of these tools, just so I can kind of explain the differences between the kind of environment you're in today and where we can go to, right? And when I look at Gmail, there's three critical things that I think are some differences, right? So obviously the first one that I see when they're pointing, sometimes email's not enough. You need to have instant messaging. One of the things that's nice about that instant messaging, especially for your ESL students, if you have a family that speaks Spanish or Russian or whatever it might be, Chinese, we have these things called chatbots now. And what these chatbots do is that you can invite them into your chat. One is a translator from Mandarin Chinese to English, and one is from English to Mandarin Chinese. So I could have a mom who's speaks Mandarin Chinese, typing in, asking a question to the teacher, and it'll in real time translate that to the teacher, and the teacher sees it in English. The teacher responds in English, and it goes back to mom in Mandarin Chinese. That translation not only works inside our instant messaging, but it's going to work inside our email. We know, Google will know that you normally speak English. So if someone sends you something in French, it'll automatically translate that, and it'll give you a button telling you it's translated, or it'll ask you if you want to translate it if it doesn't. And it's just a way to kind of break down barriers of ESL students. So we think that's kind of cool. The second thing that I like is on the far left-hand side. You'll see that those messages are kind of layered together. So in your Outlook mail, one email has nothing to do with 5 other emails, even if it's in a thread, right? And we're all talking about this, for example, Project Everest update. Those are all individual emails. So let's say I join your project team, right? We're going for a grant for Project Everest. Chris would then have to go through and he'd have to search through his email for all the individual emails that this group has talked about to bring me up to speed, right? He might miss 3 or 4. In this case, this is what we call the conversation view. The conversation view, based on that subject, is going to start grouping all these messages together, and it's going to give context around it because it's going to do it chronologically. So, you can see there was one 59 minutes ago, one 23 minutes ago, one about 5 minutes ago, right? So I'm going to be able to kind of see the flow of discussions in a group when I join that group. It gives me context around it. So we think that's powerful. And the last one is a little widget on the right side. This is what we call the people widget. Relatively new feature inside Gmail. What it's going to do is it's going to kind of look at how you interact with people. Okay, so in this case, Barbara Miller, someone that I've worked with, it's going to immediately tell me, any mail that I've had with that person, so I can jump back to it really quick. It's going to look into their calendar, and it's going to say, when's the next time they're free if I want to meet them. I can actually schedule a meeting right from my Gmail interface. And any documents that we've ever shared together. Now, I use this a lot of times. I have parents call in. I don't know who their kids are. They feel like I know who their kids are, but I don't really know, right? And so, first thing I'll do is I'll just go search their name inside my Gmail. And I might have had an email with that person. And then I start getting some information about them. What that does for us is it makes us be able to kind of bridge that gap between the home and the school much quicker because, again, you're a big district, we're a big, I can't know 6,000, 7,000 students. It's just not possible. But with these kind of tools, it really allows us to be more personalized in how we deal with our stakeholders, which are families and students. So those are the big differences, I would say. Aside from the conversation view and the people widget, just in the kind of modalities and the way that we speak, right? So it's email, it's instant messaging, it's being able to have a phone number to actually call phones from here, right? To be able to video conference someone from here, to have a conference call, right? You can actually use this to actually create a phone number and have multiple people call into that line, right? So this is a really powerful communication tool. So it's much more than just email. Just remember that messaging is more than email. Again, this is going to work on all your devices, your tablets, your iPhones. It really doesn't matter. As long as it is an internet-connected device, you're going to be able to get your stuff on that. All right. Now, Google Drive, just want to spend a little bit of time on that. These are the 3 things that I think are the key features of Google Drive, right? So it's about these productivity tools and storage tools, right? So it's those 2 things. It's productivity tools and storage. It's about accessing that stuff anywhere. It's about bringing those files to life. And how do I safely store those files and that data, right? So it does all of these things. And again, this is the idea of instead of storing something on one little device, right? I could lose this device. And where's my data at then, right? I could be a special education teacher and I have IEPs on this device. I think it's very dangerous to actually store data on individual devices. I think data should be stored in the cloud. I know at Hempfeld, I don't have the budget to be able to provide the level of security Google does, right, around data. They spend billions of dollars to secure these data. And in fact, when you sign up for Google Apps, you enter into an agreement with Google that if data is lost, we no longer have the liability. That liability exists on Google, right? That's a huge thing for myself as a tech director, to not have that level of liability to secure that data. I've pushed that off to a third party. So we think this is a powerful tool. This is just real quick what that looks like. It's pretty simple. There's a file system on the left-hand side. You can kind of see, what documents were shared with me. Is there anything that I've starred? Show me my recent documents, right? And then all my actual files will then be on that right window. I can click on any of those files and then I can open it up. There's one thing that says download Google Drive for PC. So if you're stuck on using a PC, because you don't want to throw the stuff that you have away, you may have a PC at home. You can actually download Google Drive client for your PC. And so, you open Word, and when you click Save As, right, you say, do I want to save it in my documents or on my desktop? One of those options is going to be Google Drive. When you select that, right, it's not only going to store a copy on your PC, but it's going to back that up and it's going to put it in Google's cloud. right? I see a ton of people actually use this to backhaul their stuff up. They'll actually, download this, and we'll take all the files that are on their PC and they'll put it in that folder. And now they have a backup copy, right? How many of us has ever had a PC that's died, right? Pretty much everybody, right? You want to be able to find a way that's easy to kind of back that up and make sure you don't lose those files. It's a great way to use this. Now, I just threw up some numbers from even at Google, for business customers, getting 16 terabytes of data from us is $800 a month, right? $799.99. If you go to Box, it's typically $15 per user per month for a terabyte of data. Dropbox, I think maybe the cheaper version. So for 5 people, you can pay $795 and you'll get unlimited storage, right? So just to give you an idea, if you took $795 times however many thousands of people that are in your user population, it's a huge number, right? And that's cheaper than actually buying all these servers and managing it yourself, right? That's why these guys exist, because they've offered a cheaper way to do it. Being able to get that free storage from Google is a huge, financial win for schools, right? So I think you guys made a huge decision by being able to not only shift that liability of that data, but the cost around that. I think those cost advantages are staggering. So this is what a doc would look like, right? So forget the personal computer, right? Think of the collaborative computer. Think of being able to have a document, multiple people in it. These are all kind of lit up different colors. That's a different person. I'm seeing kind of character by character, someone working on a document. Sometimes it's not enough to actually just kind of work that way where you don't see and hear people. You can actually pull people in on a video conference around that document, work on it together, right? There's a whiteboard around here as well. So, I see a lot of, this is, some office hours for, I think it was Thursday physics chat, right? So Thursday in the evening, the teacher's able to bring kids in that, have questions. They didn't figure out what was going on in the lecture that day. And so, it's just a really nice way to kind of be able to work with folks, record these sessions. You can also see a group chat. A lot of times I'll see teachers will mute all the kids that come into the chat. They have kids talking. It's very hard to hear the teacher that way. So, there's a way to kind of mute all those kids and kind of give a lesson, right? This is an actual whiteboard. If you look over here, there's a little marker, there's letters, there's erasers, there's colors. You can actually, not only just have this whiteboard, you can have videos in there, right? So over here on the left-hand side, there's a YouTube. So, there may be a video that illustrates it better than you could actually show how to do the Pythagorean theorem or whatever it might be, right? The FOIL technique is a good example. Someone's figured out how to do the FOIL technique and illustrate that in an easy way. I would go search that on YouTube, and I'd bring that video in here, and that's a nice easy way to show kids how to do this stuff. Again, this is going to work in real time on your device. So it's not just like accessing those files on the device, right? So this morning I went to Dunkin' Donuts. I came a little bit early, so I had a donut, coffee, and I thought, I better look at my presentation. I didn't really spend a lot of time putting this together yesterday. And I had a couple slides in there that just had nothing to do with you guys, right? And so right from my mobile device, I was able to pull those 4 or 5 slides out, and I was off and running. So it's the idea of actually working on those mobile devices. I think that's pretty powerful. So you can do not only just actual work, a lot of things I see is I'll see kids take pictures all the time in our classrooms, right? And what they're taking pictures of is something that's on the board that their teacher might have written on the board. This has a thing called OCR, optical character recognition, and so you can actually take a picture of what your teacher wrote on the board. It'll convert that to digital text, right? Because Google can recognize those things and see words. Even when you do a search inside Google Apps, it'll search through pictures. So if I searched for, the University of Michigan, right? And there might be a picture inside my files. I was at in Ann Arbor, and I took a picture of the University of Michigan. It'll actually search that actual picture, and it'll return it as a result set. This has built-in mobile security all around it. We have clients for both of the major platforms, iOS and Android. And so it's just, I think, a usable solution from the mobile side. All right, calendar. I just want to chat real quick about this. So consider our calendar as an open slate where you can layer various people's calendars on it, right? So that's really how it works. Unlike your Outlook calendars where it's your calendar, this is the idea of having my calendar in yellow, but I also want to see, what's going on in gym class and maybe some personal things, right? So on the very far left side, those are my calendars. I can kind of click on any one of those calendars, turn them on, and bring them onto the screen, okay? I can unclick them and just see only my calendar stuff. A little bit further, it says other calendars, add a coworker's calendar. So I might be in the math department, and I want to see everybody who's busy, because maybe I want to schedule a meeting with all these folks inside my math department. Before I send it out, I'm just going to look at everyone's calendars, because I know on Monday, everyone's free that day. And so, it's just really nice to be able to have that level of, calendar sharing within your organization, so you know where everybody is. Also, you can schedule resources on here. So, like I mentioned before, this room or the gym or the football field or whatever it might be. What we've used it for, which I think is really cool. We have some pretty forward-thinking curriculum people at Hempel. And, I get a new teacher that comes in. A lot of these new teachers, they don't know at what part of the year they should be teaching what, right? We used to just give them a book and, here's your curriculum map, and, right, we wipe our hands of it. And, it's kind of crazy to think about what a new teacher goes through when they come in. Everyone's so busy, in their own lives. It's really hard to kind of, how do we bring them into the culture? So one of the things that you can do is you could actually take all of your standards, and for each one of those standards, you could map those to an actual time on the calendar. And you can embed the actual content that they need to deliver to those kids on that calendar, right? So I look at this as, these are standards mappings, this is pacing guides. This is the tool for that, right? And it's not just new teachers. I mean, even your veteran teachers, I think, could benefit by being able to see, where am I at in the course of the school year? What am I teaching? And where should I be as it relates to those standards, right? It's a good gauge, it's a good metric. And also being able to just get all that content. Instead of my curriculum director emailing me stuff with suggestions, put it in my calendar, make it available. And what happens with these teachers is they will then share their calendars with all of their students, right? So the way our classroom works now is you create an assignment on November 7th, 2016, and I put some, files in there, like maybe their homework assignments or a worksheet. That's actually going on every student in that class's personal Gmail calendar, okay? So it's just a really cool way to kind of, manage that workflow. So we feel calendar is a very, very powerful tool. Make sense? Okay. Google Sites, I won't go on too much about this, but again, you can build these really cool websites. It might be classroom sites, it might be an actual district site, but again, this is the idea of having an editor. We won't spend too much time on it today because it's not the focus of our discussion. Classroom, I'll just talk about it real quick. The idea of every class, being able to kind of have a mission control center for teachers. That's really what I see it as. I don't necessarily see it as an LMS in the sense of, it being very complicated. We're part of an initiative in the Westmoreland Intermediate Unit called the Academy, right? And the Academy was for kids that, instead of them going to cyber school, we'd put them in our intermediate units, like online academy. But it required our teachers to actually teach that, right? And we would use a program called Moodle, which is very complex. And, we started out with a whole bunch of teachers and a whole bunch of students in that. And last year we had one kid and no teachers in that, okay? And it's because these LMSs are, it's like a full-time job to be able to manage these very complex LMSs. This is something that's very easy and it just works inside your Google Drive. I can push content out to a kid by clicking a button, selecting the file, putting a note on for the kid, putting a due date in, and I'm done. Right? So it's very lightweight. So, it's about creating and collecting assignments, right? It's about improving communication. So all your kids are on these social sites. They're on Instagram, they're on Twitter, they're on Facebook, right? This idea of social streaming, we can bring that social streaming into the classroom, right? So the idea of, I'm going to teach the FOIL technique today, and I'll actually make a post about it inside my classroom, and then all of the kids that are in my class can comment on that, right? They can talk to one another. If someone doesn't know how to, do the FOIL technique, well, other kid says, well, it's first, outer, inner, last, right? So, it's facilitating those social style discussions, which I think is really cool. I haven't seen many folks do it in that way. And the last one is just, being able to stay organized. How to organize your classes around, a timeline from the start of the school to the end of the school with 180 days. So one of the things Classroom has done is they now have the ability to reuse all those posts. So once you go through and you do 1 year of putting all your assignments in there, you have a database of all these assignments. So, day one of year 2, I'm going back to day 1 of year 1, and I'm grabbing that assignment and I'm posting it, right? All the work's done for you. So it's really a 1-year deal. This is what a classroom looks like in terms of, distributing something, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just title it, right? I'm gonna say it's basic Italian vocabulary. I'm gonna give some instructions. Please fill out the attached worksheet. This will test your knowledge of the Italian words we've been studying in class. I'll click the attach button, right? So if you look kind of right down here, there's an attach button where you can attach it directly from your actual hard drive on your PC. You can grab something from your Google Drive. You can grab something from YouTube. You may have a link that you found that's a really cool lesson that exists out there online on the web, and it's got a web address. So whatever it is that you grab here, you can actually push out to your students all in one fell swoop, right? And then, if it's a Google Drive file, you want to put the permissions in there, right? Can the students view the file? Can they edit the file? I think the best one is make an individual copy for all the kids, right? That way you preserve the actual document and it creates an individual copy. So when the students get it, it might be something that was in a Google document. There'll be a little button now that's at the top of that document that says turn it in. And so they'll actually do all their homework, and when they're ready, they click the turn it in button, and then you guys get like this, right? So I can tell, who's kind of turned their assignments in, who hasn't, and I can grade it, right? So we can do points or percentages on a scale. And so it's a really easy way to do this. There's now the ability to, there's a download button. So whatever SIS that you guys use, you can now automatically upload that directly into your SIS. There is an API that's built around this now. So an API is an application programming interface. You can actually link directly with your SIS. So as you create an assignment inside Google Classroom, it'll create an assignment in your SIS. As you grade it in Classroom, it'll grade it in your SIS, and it streamlines that whole process. So another new feature that's coming out is this idea called Cast. Casting your whole screen, kind of like we're doing now, to everyone that's in this classroom. Really, really cool tool. So if you ever get to the point where you do go do one-on-one, and you don't necessarily want to use your whiteboard or your projectors that are up here, you just want to put it on the actual kids' devices, you can actually take over control of the students' devices in that room, and you can kind of put your lessons on here. So this would be like, a lesson that would be inside Classroom, and it gets pushed out to each one of the kids. So it might be a video, there might be some information about it. And we think that's kind of a cool feature. Again, that does not cost anything. Classroom even works on all your mobile devices. So, again, as I mentioned before, being able to, whether it's grading an assignment or actually doing the homework on your mobile device, this will all work together. It doesn't matter if you're on a PC or you're on an iPhone. We have another button called the Share the Classroom button. So, you as teachers, you might find cool resources that exist out there on the internet, right? You want to share that to all the kids in your first period English class. We have a little plug-in that goes into Chrome, and you can click that plug-in, select which class you want to post it to, and it's going to share it to all those kids in that class, right? Very, very easy to use tool. It's, instead of copying and pasting and opening up some LMS, this is clicking a button on a browser and it's sharing it to all the kids in the class. You can actually share to multiple classes at the same time. So if I teach 5 sections of Algebra 1, I'm going to share it one time, I'm going to select all 5 classes, and they're all going to get that message. Okay, make sense? So how do we integrate technology in a learning environment? I mean, when you combine these apps with actual devices, hopefully you guys get down this path. When you do, you're going to get to these Chrome devices. We think they're just very easy to use because they're web-based, they're managed, they're customized from the cloud, the security's built in, you don't need antiviruses, and they're forever fresh, right? So I have, these old Chromebooks that you have, these Samsungs, they're probably 4 years old. Those are just as good as the brand new ones that you're buying, from Best Buy today, because they have the same exact operating system. It automatically updates. From a classroom standpoint, I know we've worked with a vendor that sold to Quaker Valley, and we supplied them with licenses for Chromebooks, and they went from having MacBooks in the room, right, that when they'd start a class up, it might have been 7-8 minutes before everyone actually was able to get on the same page. These are going to boot up in 8 seconds, ready to go from a cold start. And the other thing is, these are gonna run for 10 hours for a full school day. Sarah Catholic is a small Catholic high school on the eastern side of Pittsburgh. You know, they've given Chromebooks to each one of their kids, and they just say, look, you know, make sure they're charged before you come to school. Take them home with you, and because, you know, if you think about, are you gonna put plugs in all your rooms to go to 1-1? No, you're not. So it's a very easy thing to do. So we think these devices are great, and, you know, again, it just makes it affordable. I mean, these are $149 now, right? We now have these Chromebooks bits, so, you know, if you ever need to, you know, replace some labs, these become deadly cheap. So for us, it's really about how do we make things really cheap, really easy to use. You can also manage, you know, there's mobile device management for your mobile devices that connect to your domain. You know, we can actually apply security policies across all these devices. We offer a thing called two-factor authentication, you know, so it's kind of like banks use. You could look over my shoulder and see my username and password. You go home to your computer, you want to log in, see what's inside my email account, and it'll pop a little code and it'll say, you know, put in your 6-digit secret code. And that's where it would send a text to my cell phone. So you would have had to school on my cell phone as well to even get into my account. This makes things very, very secure. Now, again, I go back to the idea of special education. You know, I got special ed teachers that are all over the place. If they lose a PC, you know, I'm sweating about that because they got private healthcare information that exists, right, through IEPs, right, chapter 14, 15, 16. And that was just like, kept me up at night. And we've, you know, we don't ever want to have that kind of an issue. So, you know, to be able to have these device management capabilities, you know, a special ed teacher calls me now and says, I lost my iPhone. I got some, you know, student private health information on there. So first thing I do is I locate it on a Google map, right? And I'd say, okay, you know, it's here. In the meantime, I'd lock that. If she can't find that device, I remotely wipe that device. So all of the liability that we had of that student's personally identifiable information, we can wipe off that device, right? And so having that level of kind of security and control around data and devices, we think is critical. So, you know, Chris and Ross, I think, made a great decision to be able to move to this kind of a platform to manage it in this way. So you asked earlier about e-discovery. This is kind of what this looks like, right? There's a search box, right? It's just like Google search. And, you know, you're going to just put search terms in there, things that you're looking for. It's going to look through your whole mail domain, and it's going to be able to then return result sets for something that you're looking for. And as I also mentioned before, being able to create accounts for, if you're subpoenaed for your district attorney, to be able, instead of, you know, being part of that discovery process, being able to step out of that process saves a ton of time and money. So we think that's a pretty valuable tool. You know, it's really about how do I keep things safe and in compliance. You know, so from ISO 27001 to SSAE 16 Type 2, all the way to, you know, HIPAA compliance. Google now signs, you know, business associate agreements where they assume the liability of any data breaches for personally identifiable healthcare information. It's a very powerful tool. You know, we have sync and sharing controls. This is full encryption. You know, that's a huge difference between coming from Outlook and Exchange. You know, you don't have, unless you buy a separate product, actual encryption with your Outlook and Exchange. Now this is actually full encryption, end-to-end encryption, when data is at rest and when it's in transit. Now we have full app and domain whitelisting, built-in mobile security. We do even things like suspicious login detection. You know, just earlier, I logged in from a computer that I don't normally log in from. And it automatically sent me an email message saying, hey, we have a suspicious login. You know, if it's you, verify it, right? So those just levels of security you're just not going to find anywhere else. You know, from a security standpoint, you know, a lot of folks don't know this. Google is actually the 4th largest server manufacturer in the world. They don't even sell servers. This is the level of infrastructure that these guys have built. You know, billions of dollars flowing through these systems every day, millions of credit cards. These are, you know, in terms of their servers, they're the actual own servers, hardened custom Linux stacks. They build on their own, right? They don't communicate what that actual stack looks like. Years ago, Google built a thing called the Google File System, right? And this is, I think, the secret sauce of what really grew Google to prominence. So, you know, when I store data now, right, we get data stored on this PC. So a PC is no different than a server, right? It's a computer that stores data, has a database on it. So the way Google dealt with this is they shard data. So You know, imagine me going and punching that glass out, right? It's gonna break into little shards, little pieces of glass. Well, Google does this with emails and documents, where they take the actual data that is that document, and they break it into thousands of pieces. And they store this all over servers all over the world. In other words, all their eggs are not in one basket, right? It's actually on various servers, and they have technology that when you sign in with your username and password and you verify who you are, it'll then bring all that data back and assemble it in a split second, and you have it. So it's you know, about making sure that something's secure, making sure that it's going fast, and we think that they have something that is special and unique and proprietary. They also have FSMA mid certification, which allows them to deal with the federal government. So it's a big deal. So I'm gonna take a break now, because you know we're in for about an hour. I'll give you a real quick 5-10 minute break, and we'll jump back in, and we're gonna actually get hands-on. You guys will log into your various accounts, and again, I don't want it to be kind of a one-way. I wanted to give you an overview that was a little bit one-way. I want you guys to talk to me. I want you to ask questions, and we'll master this stuff, and we'll go from there. Any questions before we break?
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm. I obviously did not read an email that came from Mr. Stankel about the cell phone application.
Yep.
So if I go on and search by his name in the email.
Yep.
Okay, now supposing he sent it before it was installed, will it still pull it up?
It will.
Ah,
Okay, we'll find it.
sorry, Chris.
Nothing to apologize for.
Okay, we'll see you in 10 minutes. Thank you. We're gonna get to a hands-on section here. I put a link up here, and it's https://apps.google.com/learning-center. Now, the best way to find that, I'll just kind of jump on here one more time and show you this. Just go to Google and type in Google Apps Learning Center.
Where do I find Google?
Google.com. And if you're using the Chrome browser, you can actually just search right in the Chrome browser like it's Google, and it'll pop up. It's a lot easier than trying to remember, you know, this whole domain. Okay? So if you get on that website, that's where we're going to actually do all of our training from. This would be what I consider to be administrator and secretary, office professional training. There's specific training for teachers that relates to how to work with kids in a classroom. These are going to be kind of app specific, and the two apps that we're going to talk about today are really Gmail and Calendar. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead and click on that Gmail link right here. Everybody see that?
I don't have that picture.
Let me help you.
I get email for business.
Go ahead and type right in here.
Yeah.
Just highlight the whole thing. Type Google Apps Learning Center,
One word.
space, Learning Center. Okay, came up there.
Okay.
And then go ahead and hit enter. And then go ahead and click there. And you're in.
Okay.
Okay?
Mhm.
All right. So once you're in here, we're going to start with the Gmail icon, right? Because you can actually just go and grab training specific to each app. All right. So there's a little button that says Get Started, because we're going to start from scratch. They're also on the right-hand side, if you're switching from Microsoft Outlook or IBM Lotus Notes, you can actually use these. We're going to cover the same exact thing. So let's just start from scratch, just so we can kind of get everything. Okay, so there's 5 sections that we're going to want to talk about today, right? And they're basic, right? How do I compose and send? How do I reply to emails? How do I organize my inbox? How do I find emails? And lastly, how do I create signatures? I like to start almost with 5 first, because I think it's important to go in and do some kind of housekeeping, so to speak, with your account. So I'm going to just go into my account, and I'm going to go ahead and set this up properly, okay? So the first thing I want to do, and you guys should follow along with this, is on the right-hand side, there's a little gear button. You see that gear button on your screen? Okay, if you click it, there's going to be a menu that pops up, okay? And what I like to do is I like to go down to Settings. See Settings on there? Go ahead and click settings. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna set our account from here, okay? So to explain the screen, there's gonna be a whole bunch of various tabs that exist up here. We're gonna stay on the first one, which is the default screen, which is the general settings tab, okay? And so I'm gonna scroll down, and there's a couple things I'm gonna want you to select. Okay, so as I scroll down here, the first one is conversation view. I wanna make sure that conversation view's on. I think it's a valuable thing. I suggest everybody using that. If you don't like grouping all of your stuff in a chronological format like that, you can always go back to the Outlook style by turning off conversation view, right? So that's the area we will do that. But give that a try, because I think you'll find having that context and kind of having timelines around mails between multiple people is valuable. Okay. If, by the way, right above that, if you like this kind of text, or if you have your own specific type of text that you like, we have a handful of texts that are in there. There's fonts. You can change the size, you can change the color, and that will be your default look of how you like your email to look like. I actually just leave it the way it is. The sans serif is a very nice, easy to use font. Okay. So the next thing that I want you to do, because I think this will save a lot of people a lot of headaches, is there's a button here that says undo send, right? I always enable undo send. You can do multiple, seconds, 5, 10, 20, 30. I think 10 is good enough. I mean, there's many times where you've accidentally clicked send on an email, you thought, oh, I forgot to attach something, or whatever it might be. This just allows you to go back and recall that before it actually gets sent out. It puts a delay in there of that many seconds. It saves you. Might be someone that you forgot to add to a list, and that way you don't have to kind of be that guy that sends 3 or 4 emails amending things that you've done before. Okay. I'm going to scroll down a little bit further. Now, you're going to want to do this not on this computer that you're on, but your home computer. There's desktop notifications, just like you get in your Microsoft world. We have desktop notifications, so when you get a new email, if you have a computer that you always use, you're going to want to put those on. It's a nice, easy way to kind of know if someone sent you an email or text or instant message. If this is like in a lab, or it's a computer multiple people use, a kiosk, whatever, you do not want to do that, because that is essentially putting your information on that device, right? So remember, use it for your personal computers only. We'll scroll down a little bit more. I always recommend that people put a picture up, especially if you're interfacing with students or parents, okay? Get your profile picture. You probably already have one from your district, and go ahead and select a picture that everyone will see. I'll just show you real quick. This allows me to go out and grab a picture. Let me go ahead and grab a picture. So this isn't me, but we're going to go ahead and grab a profile pic. And then I can copy this. So I'll save as. I'll put it on my desktop. And this way we can jump back in here and upload a picture. So I'll say it's on my computer. I'll go ahead and choose file. And come on here somewhere. And this will allow me to go ahead and format it. And then I'll apply the changes. And now I have a profile picture. I think it's important to do, especially if you're working with parents and students.
Does this, how does that interact with your Google Plus?
That will be
That is it?
That will be it, yes. Okay. There's another one that says show the people widget. I always want to show that. You want that data around how you interact with people. It'll start building a profile around your contacts, right? This is especially important for working with parents, right? I always have parents that will call in. They expect me to know that they have 3 kids and what all 3 of their kids' names are. This is a nice way to be able to kind of, search through my search box right inside Gmail and get data about that parent. Any mails that I've had from them in the past, I can open them up really quick. I can look at their calendars, and I also can see any files that we've shared together. Okay. Next thing I want to do is I want to make sure you guys have a nice signature. Okay. There probably is Chris, is there like a standard style signature here? Is it?
No, we put a footer on after the
Okay.
session, but anybody can do whatever they want.
So yeah, so this would be your name, your room, any numbers that you want to give, or, your email address. Throw that all on there, save it one time, and there's a button that says insert the signature before quoted text and remove the dash line, kind of separates it. You have that choice. I usually just leave that off, and I always put my footer back, put my signature in there. And again, this is going to save you from signing your name and phone number every time. And it's also a professional thing. I mean, I think parents want to see that. Okay, snippets. I like to actually show snippets. This is, when you look at your emails, instead of just seeing that you got a new mail, it takes a real quick snippet of what's actually in that mail, especially if it's something that's suspicious. Sometimes you get things that are suspicious and you need to remark it as spam. You'll be able to see if it's a legitimate email or not without ever actually opening it, right? A lot of the spam works by opening emails, just the action of opening it can infect your computer. So it's nice to have that little snippet there to see if it's legitimate. And the last thing I want to show you, which I think is important, is when you're off, you should always have a vacation responder on, okay? The way you turn that on is you'll always come back to settings in this general tab, and you'll come here and you'll click, vacation responder on. You'll pick your first day that you're gone and the last day you'll be back, and then you put the message in there, right? So my subject might be out of office until, 11:10. And then the message, please contact whoever it might be in case of an emergency. And again, you have a choice of just sending it to the people in your contacts or only people at Mount Lebanon School District, with an actual staff email address. I say leave it open because you want to be able to have parents that are contacting you know that you're actually out and to contact somebody else. But that's, I think, the administrative side. You always, when you're done, want to go ahead and select Save Changes, right? It's one of the few places where Google actually has a save button. All right? So that took care of that first part. Now, there's another area inside settings. We're going to go back in there and we're going to configure it, and they're called labs, okay? So I want to go over to labs because there's some very useful experimental stuff that I think make the experience better. And again, this is your personal choice. I'm just giving some recommendations. So the first one that I like to enable is a thing called canned responses. And so this is nice, if they're, maybe you're posting a job and, you create a special email address for people to respond to that job. And when someone sends an email to jobs@mountlebanonschool.mtlsd.net, you can actually create a canned response. It'll send, an email back saying, thank you for applying to, Mount Lebanon School District, and it'll have some information, right? There are many instances where you may need to use a canned response. So I say go ahead and just, kind of throw that in there. There's a Google Calendar gadget. So this basically takes your appointments that you have for the day and it throws it on the left-hand side of Gmail, so you don't actually have to jump over to your calendar. It's a nice quick way to see it. I usually enable that. And if you have Google Voice, I always enable this Google Voice player in Mail. And the reason I do this is Google Voice also comes with voicemail, right? And so, it's just nice for me right from my email to be able to get all of my voicemails, directed to this number. Okay, we'll scroll down a little bit more. And I go ahead and put the Picasa previews in Mail. You don't need to. I like putting pictures in chat just so I can see who I'm actually talking to. It basically takes the profile picture and puts it in your chat discussion. Quick links. So, I'll give you a good example of quick links. So, if I want to make sure that I get all of my emails from my superintendent, okay, you can actually create a filter that takes any emails from that superintendent and puts it in a link, okay, so you can just click that and look at all of the emails that you ever got from them. That's what Quick Links does. I'll actually go ahead and enable that. You may not use it, but I think the one most important one on here is the one two down further from that, which is right side chat. The reason I say this is chat is actually bunched at the very bottom left hand by default on the Gmail screen, okay? By moving it to the right side of the screen, it actually opens up your folders a lot better so you can see things better on that side, and it balances the page. It actually, out of the box from Google, should come with right side chat, but it doesn't, okay? And that's about it. And then we'll go ahead and click Save Changes. And you'll see this will then go ahead and refresh my whole page. And you'll see my chat over here on the right-hand side. Okay? And over here, there normally would be a calendar gadget, but I don't actually have anything on my calendar. So in a little bit, I'll go ahead and actually create some calendar events and we'll start to populate here. All right. Okay. So we'll jump back over. So now we've done our housekeeping, we have a signature, we know how to respond to vacation responders if we have them. We're gonna go ahead and actually start through the process of composing and sending. So number one is compose and send. So I'll start at 1.1, how to compose a new email. So let's go back to our mail. If you look right under the MTLSD logo, there's a big red compose button, okay? Very, very simple to create an email. I'll go ahead and click the compose button. And again, I have a couple of different fields here. So obviously the first one is to. So I'm gonna send this one to Ross. And again, as soon as I started typing in, right, this goes and looks at your directory. We've now taken all of your directory information, all of the email addresses, everybody here in this domain, and we've loaded it in here. We've also went through a migration and took your personal contacts that you had inside your Outlook, right? And we've brought them over for everybody. Those are all slowly coming in there. We should be, pretty much 100% in the next week or so. But this is just nice to be able to have that real quick autocomplete. Again, if I need to CC somebody, there's an area to create a carbon copy, right? And if I need to blind carbon copy someone, maybe I'm issuing some discipline, but I don't want them to see them sending this to the superintendent. I could go ahead and put someone in there. So, I could put Chris in here.
That was a big change for me, having to find that CCBC.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to actually click into that, okay? And so I found Chris here, and I'll go ahead and select them. And now I typically put a subject in there, right? And so we'll call this demo. And then I can actually start typing, right? And so, this is where the text goes. And again, just like in Outlook, you have any kind of, editing formatting options. It doesn't look like they're there, okay? To bring that menu up, I actually have to click that A button, and then I can change its font color. I'm sorry, the actual font. I can change the font size. I can bold it, I can italicize it, I can underline it. I can go ahead and change the color, okay? Again, your various formatting, so if I want that in the center of the page, maybe it's in a numbered list or bulleted. And if I want to increase my indents or decrease my indents, okay? If I'm quoting something, I can actually quote that. And if I need to remove all that formatting, I can go ahead and click remove formatting and all of this stuff goes away, okay? You also have the ability here to attach files, right? So that's what that little paperclip looks like. And, I could come up here and maybe in this case, I want to go ahead and grab that profile picture that we created. Now, one of the things about attaching files, it's just like any mail program. When you attach a file, you're actually attaching the whole payload of the files, right? So if you have a lot of files, there's a better way to actually send it because, after you get to a limit, 25 megabytes, it's gonna deny that. And in fact, the people that you send it to, they can't actually receive files, that large. So the best way to do that is to actually put that file in Google Drive, and then you send them a link. Okay, so that's what sharing is. It's essentially sending a link. And then the payload of that email actually doesn't go with the email, right? That way it ensures that the person that you want to send it to, because you had mentioned before, someone tried to send you some things with attachments. It's always better to send them as a Google link, okay? Shared to a specific person so that only they see it. You can kind of have some level of control over that. But again, you're sending something with no payload whatsoever, so that it's always going to go through. And then when they click that, you as the person that's sharing that, you know when they opened it up, right? You know what they've done with it. You have some level of visibility over how someone uses documents. An email, if I forward you an email, you can do whatever you want to do with that email and have no level of control over that, right? So, again, in a little bit, we'll talk about how to create a document and share it, through there. Okay. This window right here,
No, always the bottom.
this guy here?
You got the second where you have the attachments and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So, right here, at the very bottom, there's the attach file button.
Yeah, I don't have it.
button next to send. What does that do? Yeah, hit that. That's close to that.
You see? looking to do?
He's looking for
See,
a binder with the,
You got the second,
Above it?
the link,
you got,
the insert picture.
yeah, the links, the attachments, where
emoji.
do you get them?
That's strange. It's there, but it's not showing up on your page. It's really strange. See, they're here. It's probably just slow because it's building the images. We'll have to look into that.
All right.
Okay. You're not going crazy.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, so that's weird too, because
What's the difference between the paper clip and the
I have the bar Rick doesn't, and not the bar
the
that
one,
Rick does.
The triangle?
Yeah, I just did something with the triangle, but I don't know
Yeah,
what I
so
did.
that's inserting something using a Google Drive. Okay? So that's what I'm suggesting is if you click that button,
Mhm,
you know, I have this, you know, welcome to Google Drive getting started PDF,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
Okay, so you'll see when I uploaded that, it didn't actually put the actual PDF in there. It just put a link to that PDF. And so when they click that, it's gonna open up, and Google Drive is gonna then allow them to download that. And that way, you know, if you know, you send it to someone where, you know, I mentioned quotas before, sometimes people, you know, mail domains will say, look, we don't want anything bigger than 10 megabytes coming in here, being downloaded, right? Because you can't control who you're sending it to. So it's nice to be able to send them a link with no megabytes, right? So they can always download anything that you send them. Okay. All right. The next thing, just jump in here. You'll never need this send and request money. You'd have to, you know, specify. This is again if you're doing commerce with somebody. There's an insert a photo, right? What's nice about the insert a photo, you can actually drag and drop. So if I have, let's just minimize this a little bit. If I have photos that are here on my desktop, oops, let me exit out of that. Minimize this. Okay. You know, I can actually go ahead and drag and drop photos right from my desktop onto here, and it's gonna upload those, right? Or I could actually select it, so I could click the photo button and then choose photos to upload, and it's gonna then, you know, allow me to actually select that file.
Where do you see photo upload?
It's a little camera. You see that camera there? It's right next to the request money button.
Oh, yeah,
Go ahead and click it,
yeah,
and then you can actually upload your photos, if you had
oh,
photos,
okay.
okay?
Mhm.
And then there's a link, right? So if there's a specific link I want to send to somebody, you know, maybe it's postgazette.com. I can actually send them a link, and it'll, you know, populate that in there. Okay? And then any kind of, you know, emojis. You know, maybe I'm really happy today. You can select those. Okay? Everyone loves those. And that's it. And then I can send. Now, before I go and actually send this, there may be some other people that I want to add to this. But I don't know exactly their email address, right? In fact, I can't even remember their name. So, one of the things you can do is a little trick. You can click the to button. And this is going to pull up all of my contacts. Now, I don't know anybody here, so I don't actually have any contacts. But there's a directory of all the people that's inside the school, okay? So I can click that directory, and in this case, you know, maybe I want someone, I don't know, Anne Marie Murtha, okay? I'd select Anne Marie Murtha, and I'd hit select. And now she's actually in this list, okay? And I didn't have to know her name or address. I could actually just browse right from that directory.
Where did you find that again? I'm sorry.
I
lost-
click the to button, see where it says to? It's not a button, it just says to. Go ahead and click that.
Okay, I see.
And then, you know, it'll pull your contacts up. I don't have any, so I went to actually the directory.
Okay.
And then that's gonna pull up everybody that works here. Okay, it's a real easy way to find people. Got it?
Thank you.
Okay. And that is composing messages. Any questions on composing messages?
Yeah, so I think what we need to investigate later though is that we have differences in the bottom formatting
Yeah.
bars.
Absolutely.
I had to reverse it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I got the blue send one, but not the Tahoma bar.
If you click that A button, it doesn't come up. See the A next to send? You're not seeing the formatting.
No, what they're seeing is there's no buttons at all down here over there.
Oh, the A, I gotcha. Oh, no, so I have what you have.
Okay.
Yeah,
But Rick didn't have
I
it.
still,
We'll figure it
I
out.
get that, but I don't get,
It could be that we need to update the browser.
We'll figure
Just
it out.
using Chrome, right?
it'll say.
Chrome. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Okay. Okay, so that's sending, and I can go ahead and click send, and see what it says to me. This drive file has been shared with all recipients. Change how this file is shared in Drive, right? And so I'll say anyone can edit. Okay, and then I'll go ahead and click and share and send, and it basically shared that and sent that off. Now, I can then look in my sent mail, and you'll see that I have sent that away. If I need to pull it back up, there it was. Got it? Okay, so back into my inbox. We're gonna go ahead and jump back to the Google Apps Learning Center. Let's open this all the way back up. Okay, so we went through the process of composing. Oh, one thing I should show. Back whenever I go ahead and click compose, one of the things that you can do is you can pop this out, right? So if I want kind of full screen, there's that little arrow. Let me bring that back and show you that again. Okay? I can also hit shift and click this and make it its own pop-up, right? Because maybe I want multiple, and I want to be able to tab back and forth between these, okay? And if I want to go back, pop it back in, and actually make it down here, and I have that. So that's what that little arrow is. Does that make sense? Okay. I want to show you one more thing, because I think this gets tricky. Let's say someone sends me an email, and I want to reply, or maybe I want to forward it, okay? But I want to change the subject. This always troubled me, because like I click in here, and I'm trying to say, wait a minute, how do I change the subject? It doesn't actually give you an option to change it. You actually have to click this drop-down arrow and click on Edit Subject, okay? It's one of those tricky things. I don't think we did that well, and it's not communicated very well. And so I can then go in now, once I click Edit Subject, and I can call this, you know, test, whatever I want to change the subject to. Does that make sense? Okay.
And what did you hit to do that? Subject, the word subject?
Yeah, so like,
Nothing happens on mine.
let me show you again. So I got this email here from Living Social, okay? So you're gonna have to do this on an email that someone sent to you.
Oh, someone sent to me.
Yep.
Okay, sorry.
And then, you know, I could go to reply or forward, either one. But you'll see, I can't actually change the subject from here. And the way to do that is if you click this down arrow, it'll hover over it, and it'll say types of responses, and then I can edit subject. See that? Just a little something to know. I've never really liked how that happened, but I wanna make sure you guys know that.
I don't know where to find forward.
Oh, okay, so let's go back here. I'm gonna look up here real quick.
Yeah,
So anytime I get a message in here that I need to forward,
yeah.
I'm gonna click that down button. Instead of hitting the reply button, click the more button right next to it. And there's a forward as the section option. See that?
Under more?
Yep. No, under the down arrow button. See this? Let's start over. Let's go into our inbox. So I got something from Groupon. You wanna look up onto my screen real quick?
Yeah,
Okay, so I'm gonna open an email, right?
yeah.
And I say, oh, this is River Cruises Gateway Clipper. I'm gonna send this to my wife, okay? Instead of hitting the reply button, right next to it, there's a little down arrow that says more, okay?
Yeah.
I'm gonna click that, and the second option right there is forward. See that?
Yeah.
And then I'll just go ahead and click forward. And then I'm off to the races, and I can select who I wanna send this to. And it's gonna have everything from that old email in the body.
There it is. Okay, there it is. We found it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay, so we got through 1.1, composing an email. We're gonna scroll down a little bit more. We talked about adding recipients and attachments and images. That was pretty easy. We talked about send and undo send, right? So at this point, you know, we know, give you another example. And I'll go ahead and I'll send something. And you would have created an undo send inside your settings when we did it. and I'm gonna go ahead and click send. And it tells me it's sending, and there's this little message, your message has been sent, and there's an undo button or a view message, okay? And at any point in the next 20 seconds, I can click undo, because really it's just holding it in a queue. I'll go ahead and click undo, and it's gonna come back to me. Got it?
Yeah.
Okay, what's that?
Correct, some of those whoops.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so that's how undo send works, really simple stuff. Okay, email without an internet connection, right? There's gonna be times where, I was just out in Denver, and, I had to sit on the plane, but I had all these emails, and I wanted to kind of go through, finish my emails. And the way it works is, when I get back off the airplane and it hits the internet, it then syncs all the work that I've done, and it'll send out all my emails, okay? So, if you look here, this is only gonna work in the Chrome browser, so if you try to do this in Firefox, or you try to do it in Internet Explorer, it's not actually gonna work, but Chrome has an offline setting, okay? So you'll see in the instructions right here, you go in the top right, you click the actual gear button that we talked about before, settings and offline. So this is not my computer, so I'm not gonna actually do it, but I'll just show you real quick. So there's that gear button, right? I'm gonna go back into settings, and see this offline button right here? I'm gonna go ahead and click that, and then there's a little link that says install Gmail offline. And that's how you get your offline Gmail to work. It also works inside Docs, so your Word, your slides, your presentations, all those, Google versions of Office files, those all work offline as well. And they all have their own offline tools, just like that, works just in the same way. Make sense? And again, as you work on it when you're offline, as soon as it hits the internet, you don't have to do anything. It'll automatically sync all that stuff for you and send all your mails and update your files. Okay? All right. Let's go to reply to emails. And again, the three things we're going to talk about here is how to view new emails, reply, and then change recipients and subjects. Okay? So I'm going to go back into my inbox, and I purposely signed up for Groupon and Living Social last night just because I knew they'd send me stuff. Okay? So first thing I want to look at is I'm going to go back to that Living Social because I got a mail in here. And we talked a little bit before about how to forward something, okay? But I want to look at more than just forward, okay? Because there's that forward message there. There's something called filter messages like these, okay? What a filter is, it's going to look at mail that comes in. And so if I say, you know what, I don't want this Living Social in my actual inbox. I want to put it into a folder, okay? So what I'd do is I'd come over here, and I'd probably want to build a folder, okay? So folder, and I'm getting ahead in this, but I just want to show you how this works, is what we call a label, right? It's the same thing as a folder. So I'm going to go ahead and click Create New Label, and we'll call this Living Social. Okay? You can nest this under other labels if you'd like. Go ahead and create that. And I just did that so that I have it in there, because I'm going to actually create a filter out of this. So when I get back to this email, I'm going to click Filter Messages like these. So anytime I get an email from Deals@Living Social, okay, I'm going to want to go ahead and forward that into that Living Social folder. And I'll say, you know what, skip the inbox, right? We don't need that in there. I can always just check this folder if I want to look at this stuff. And then I'm going to apply the label, and then I'm going to click Living Social, okay? And what that's doing is when Deals@Living Social sends me an email, which they send daily, instead of filling up my inbox, I'm now putting it in this folder. So I'm not getting rid of it, right? I'm not marking it as spam. I still want to look at these deals. And this is how I was able to do that. I created a filter out of that. Does that make sense? Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and click Create Filter. And now all that stuff will always go, from that point forward, it'll then exist inside this Living Social. Okay? And it's not there yet because it's from everything from this point forward after we created the label. Okay? If I wanted to get it out of here, I could actually go and grab this, and I can pull that back over into my Living Social, and it'll get it out of there, okay?
Go, say that again, how did you do
Yeah.
that again?
So, let's take that back there. Let me open that back up. So, we'll take this and remove label. So it's gonna go back. Okay, so let's say there's two ways to deal with this, right? I can actually grab, I can hover over any one of these email addresses and I can put it in a folder, okay? So let's just take this one from Amazon, okay? I'll left click, right? And it tells me I got one conversation on there, right? And I can put it in any one of these, right?
Okay,
So once I get it over here into this Living Social, I'm gonna let go of it. And now that email,
Okay.
when I click on Living Social, it
Is it
sits in there, it's in there, okay?
right.
Now let me show you another way.
Now, how
because-
did you, now, let's say you want it out of there.
Well, okay, if I ever want it out of there, I just open it up, and then I could click it
on
here,
it,
okay? And I could move this, I could move it to wherever I wanna move it. So if I wanna go back into, you know, my inbox, I'll click on inbox. And then it'll go back to my inbox, okay?
I see,
Or I can put it in trash or spam, wherever I wanna do it.
yeah,
Okay.
I got it.
Now, let's just go back to that inbox real quick. So, I also like doing this thing called tagging, because remember, when I mentioned you before, with Outlook, when I got an email, I had to put it in one of those folders. It could be in my Chris friend folder, or my Chris Mount Lebanon work folder, right? In reality, it should be in both of them, right? So, let's go ahead and create another label here, just to show you what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna create a new label, we'll call this Test for Chris. Go ahead and click create. So I have another Test for Chris label, again, label folder, same thing, okay? But the difference is, I could actually go and, again, I wanna color these just so we can see it. Make this one, I think that's red or orange, and we'll make Chris blue, okay? So what I can do is I can actually take these labels and I can put them over here on individual emails. So I'll put a label on Amazon, okay, for Chris, but he also belongs in this folder. And what I'll find is this Amazon.com email is in both of these folders now. So there's that Amazon email in Living Social, and there's that Amazon email inside Chris. It exists in both places.
How did you make the label? I mean,
All right, so let's go back. If you click on that More button, see the More?
at the very bottom.
Very bottom.
Okay.
All the way down at the bottom. It's always gonna be at the bottom. There's Create
New
Labels.
label, okay,
Got it?
yeah.
So we'll go ahead and click Create Label, and we can call it whatever we want. So, we'll call this one Test. And if I need to nest it under one of my existing labels, right? So, I wanna put this under Test for Chris. I go ahead and click Create. And then when I go back here, you know, there's a little arrow next to this now. And when I click the arrow to drop it down, there's my nested label underneath that. Got it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right,
And how did
So-
you color them? Oh, I see, I got it,
yeah.
okay.
So again, it's going back to color these. Any of these labels that I have here, you know, just by clicking the drop down, there's label color, okay? You can add custom colors, you can remove the color. And it's just, you know, a way to like, you know, when you're tagging things inside your email, it's just a nice, real quick, easy way, you know, to be able to visually coordinate things.
And then how did you go and tag the email?
Yeah,
How did you?
so let's just say I wanna put, you know, and again, when you're tagging the actual email, what you're doing is you're leaving the email in your inbox and you're putting it in the folder, okay? That's what that actually accomplishes. So if I wanna put this Living Social folder, all I'm doing is I'm clicking and holding down the left mouse button, okay? On the actual label that I wanna bring over into the inbox. And see, I can move this anywhere I want now, I got it, right?
Yeah,
See that?
yeah,
So I'm gonna go ahead and put it on this one. And now that Living Social exists inside not only my inbox, but it's also inside this folder over here. Got it?
by using the,
Yeah, by dragging that label over. Conversely, if I wanted to get something out of my inbox, because I keep a clean inbox, right? I could then go grab something and pull it, right? So this Groupon, when I pull it and drop it in Living Social, it deletes it out of my inbox,
yeah.
right?
Well, how did you keep it in your inbox and drag
And
it?
put it in there, I applied the label to it. So I grabbed, instead of grabbing the email and bringing it over, I grabbed the label and I brought that over. Got it?
Okay,
So again, the question is, do I want to get it out of my inbox? If I do, I'm going to grab the email and I'm going to pull it over into a folder, right? Boom, I dropped it over, it's out of my inbox, it's now in that folder. But if I don't care about that, I want to leave everything in my inbox, but I still want to put things in folders, I'm going to then just go ahead and grab, again, hold on to the label that I want, I'm going to put it on any email that I have. Right? Works both ways. All right. And we jumped ahead a little bit there, because what we really wanted to talk about is how to respond to things, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to respond to some things. I'll maybe respond to Living Social here. So, as I mentioned before, the response is really just that reply button, okay? And again, if I need to edit the subject, I click that the drop down right next to reply, the more button, and I come in and I edit my subject. And then I can actually edit the subject, and then I can go ahead and click send. The send button is always going to be on the bottom of the email. Got that? And again, I can still, even though I'm responding to an email, I can always add, images, files, upload things, pictures, links, just like I'm creating and composing an email. Okay? All right. That's how we're responding to emails. Again, viewing new emails. If I go back here in my inbox, anything new is going to be bold. So see this Google? I haven't opened this up yet. It's telling me there was a new sign-in from Chrome on Windows. That's our security kicking in, right? This is the device that I was using. It's not my PC. So Google automatically sends me an email saying, you signed in from a computer you don't normally sign in from. Okay? Just letting me know. But that's a new one. And so as soon as I click this and I read it, okay, and it tells me where it was, right? It's a Windows device, at what time, the location in Pittsburgh, PA, on Chrome, right? This is the account that I signed in from. Now, if I go back to that inbox, that's no longer bolded anymore because it was opened, right? It's something that I looked at. So you can always tell if you have a new mail by it being bolded. The letters will be bold. And if it's not bold, just regular letters, I've already read that mail. Does that make sense? All right. So that's how we're reviewing new mails. We talked about replying to them. And again, just to kind of talk about this a little bit more, if I go back to this group on Pittsburgh and I go to reply, if I click that drop down, I have these options again, right? So I can reply, I can forward, right? I can filter, as we talked about. I can print these emails, right? Maybe this is an awesome Groupon, and I want to share this with my department. Maybe I'll just send it to the printer and print it, okay? I could add this email to my contact list, right from here. I could delete it. This is an important one that I like. Block Groupon Pittsburgh, right? If you ever got mails from somewhere you didn't like, and they're not necessarily spam, or they're not phishing, maybe it's, a friend that you're not friends with anymore, right? I could go ahead and block that person and they can never send me an email again, okay? The next one is report spam. So Google Apps has spam filtering built into this system, okay? So if you see something that you don't like inside your inbox, always click report spam. You can also report spam up here on this menu where it says report spam, okay? And what this does, it'll teach the system, don't ever send this stuff to the domain, it's from a spammer, okay? If you see something like phishing, always be aware. I've seen a lot of scams going around recently where someone will spoof like it's your superintendent sending you an email asking you to, send them a check, okay? And, you can tell it's not really from your superintendent, it doesn't seem right. And, you want to click report phishing. They're trying to get your credentials or something from you, okay? Then there's show original, message text garbled, like it's a question, so if you see something weird, go ahead and click that, that'll fix that. There's also translate message, so if this came in, I really speak French, I'm gonna go ahead and click translate message, and it'll change it for me. You can mark it as unread. Okay, those are our choices. All right. Again, changing recipients and subjects, I've already talked about that. Again, it's just simply as typing the email address that's in there. If we go back to this mail, and I'm gonna respond I want to add or change recipients, I just click in here, there's the CC and the BCC, or if I want to take that guy out there altogether, I can X off him, and I can put someone else in. Okay? And he's gonna be able to receive that email. So very easy, and again, changing the subject, I always think that, I just don't like how that works, but there's the edit subject, it's gonna pop it out into its own box, and we're good to go. All right. So organizing the inbox, you know, we kind of jumped ahead a little bit by talking about those labels, but just for the sake of the video, we will go through and talk about it again. So, again, back inside my email, I can always create labels, which are folders, right? By scrolling down to the very bottom, clicking more, and go ahead and click Create Label. And we'll call this Test 2. Go ahead and create it. Once I create it, it then shows up inside my list, right? I can give it a color, which I always should, just to identify them. Call that one yellow. And again, I can start moving messages in or out of here. And again, this is as simple as, you know, you gotta decide, do you want messages coming out of your inbox and going into one of these labels, right? So if that's the case, you know, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna grab it, I'm gonna pull it over, I'm gonna put it inside Test 2. And once I drop it in there, it's in there forever and it's out of my inbox. If I wanna leave it inside my inbox, but I also wanna put it in that folder, that's where we're gonna tag something, right? So we're gonna go ahead and grab this Test 2, and we're gonna drop it on it. And one of the things to notice is, you know, I have multiple things, multiple tags on this one email. That means that that email exists in all 3 of those folders. Does that make sense? All right. I think we've exhausted that. So we talked about creating and applying labels, moving emails out of our inbox. There's a thing called starring important emails. And so like if you're in your inbox and you see something that's important, right? Right next to the actual email, there's a little star, okay? And you can always come over into your menu and click on your star. These are like important emails you just want to keep track of, right? You don't necessarily want to put them in a folder, you want to leave them in the inbox, okay? But you want to star them, right? It might be, you know, a date, a meeting, you know, some kind of notice that you get from a parent. You can always star those, and it's going to put it in its own little star folder. Got it?
Really? It goes over there?
Yeah. So star on one, and then click on the starred tab, and it'll be over there for you.
Okay.
Okay? It's nice.
Star just means it's important.
It's just
Yeah.
important. Yep. Absolutely. If I want to delete or archive unwanted emails, so let's talk about that. So I'm back in my inbox, okay? Now, I may want to delete something. So this Living Social from Open Sky, I can click on that, which I'm essentially highlighting that email. And then these buttons have some features around them that I could either report spam, or I could archive it, or I could delete it. So in this case, I'm gonna go ahead and delete that. That means it's gone forever. Now, gone forever means we can still recover your deleted emails for up to 30 days, okay? After 30 days, they're gonna be gone forever, okay? Make sense? So if you lose something, you can always call Ross, Chris, put his help support ticket in, we can always get that back for you, okay? You wait more than 30 days, we might not get back for you, okay? Now, there's this idea of archive, right? So you have unlimited storage inside your Gmail. You don't necessarily need to archive anything. This was actually for, you know, businesses. When businesses buy this for $50 per user per year, they only get 30 gigs of space, right? And so they had to archive things. I actually suggest not archiving anything because you have unlimited storage. But if you wanted to archive something, what that means is I want to get this out of my inbox, okay? It's got to go because I'm one of these folks that keeps a clean inbox, right? And what I would do is I'd then come up and I'd click archive. And it'll get it out of there. Well, the question is, where did it go? So if I click on more, you can always find it in all mail. When I click that, all my mail comes back, okay? It doesn't actually get deleted, it just archives it and puts it in a place that's outside of your inbox. Make sense? So that's what the archive is.
What about trash?
Yeah, so trash is what I talked about before. If you wanna get rid of something, okay, you put it in the trash.
Okay.
And then that'll go away after 30 days.
So let me talk about, so I wanna delete something,
Mhm.
but, 3 months from now, I might need it, I'm not sure,
Yeah,
I'm just archiving it, just putting it. in
I would archive it if I were you, yeah. I'd click the archive button because it gets out of your inbox, you don't have to think about it or see it, or, it's not coming up in your searches, right? I mean, because you're only gonna search your inbox. And if you ever need it, you can always come back and find it again by clicking more.
Like Outlook, you
All mail.
would search a deleted file.
Correct,
You get it all back,
correct,
but this is just, the archive file is your deleted file.
correct.
All right.
Where do you find the archive file? There it is.
So it's just called all mail. You click more, right here, and look up here,
Yeah.
and then you'll go ahead and click all mail. And that's where all your archive mail is.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
It's a little weird, I guess we should have called it archive, but it's called all mail. All right,
How far back does this all mail go?
forever.
Whatever you had in your box.
Yeah, whatever you had in your box, but like from this point forward, we'll never get rid of email. It'll always be there.
Oh.
All right. The next one, how do we find emails, right? So, again, if you're an organized person, you're probably gonna be foldering things, right? What we call labels. You could find them by looking in the label. I think that, quite frankly, the easiest way to find something is over here in the search box, okay? So if I click into that search box, and I wanna find something from Amazon, I just type it and all my Amazon stuff's gonna come up, okay? Now, I can get very specific by clicking this drop-down button.
Where did you get the search box from?
So it's right next to the MTLSD logo to the right of it,
Oh, right.
okay? It's okay. So like I said before, you can actually just search it like Google, right? I'm gonna search Amazon, I click search. It's gonna go out and just grab everything, okay? So I have 2 emails from Amazon, okay? Now, I'm able to get very specific, because I get a whole big result set if I do, a search. And I only have 5 emails, so not much, but, you may have hundreds of thousands of emails in your inbox and you need to find it. So the best way to do is to narrow that down. So you could click this drop down, and so, a lot of times you know who you're looking from. It's from Amazon, so, or maybe it's from, Ross, right? And so type Ross's name in there, get rid of that Amazon real quick. So from Ross,
That's cool.
and then, it might be like, I know he said the subject, migration, okay? And, maybe it has an attachment or it doesn't have an attachment. I might know that it's in a certain time period, right? And then I'll go ahead and click search. And it's gonna identify the actual email, right? Because, Ross had some questions here and we were able to, give him some answers. And then I'm able to find the exact email that I'm looking for. This allows you to narrow things down, okay? And that's how search works. Right? Got it? Now, anytime you want to create a filter, as I mentioned before, that filter is going to be done by creating that search, right? So in this case, I wanted to create Ross. And I'll go ahead and click Create Filter with this search. And now at this point, I can only search something from Ross that relates to a migration. And, it's going to go into one of these folders. I pick which folder I want it to, or I can create a new folder, okay? Or I can add a forwarding address, and I can send that to my personal home Gmail, right? You have a lot of options in terms of creating filters. You can get very creative. You can automatically delete things. You can categorize things. You can automatically star them. Pretty cool stuff, okay? I can click never send it to spam because I always work with Ross. I need to make sure I don't lose his stuff. I accidentally, mark him as a spam email. So that's how that works.
Let me ask you, so if you send something to spam, anytime you get an email message from that, it automatically kicks?
Yeah, but it's gonna go into my spam folder, okay? So if I still I could identify
I see.
something that's spam. So let's identify something real quick. So I'm gonna go back to Groupon Pittsburgh, okay? I'm gonna say it's spam, right? So I'm gonna come up here and I'm gonna click the report spam button, or I'm gonna go to the drop down next to it and I'm gonna report spam, okay? One of the two. You can do it in both places. So, you have two choices. You can report spam, right? So this will actually create a profile at Google. Google, you know, because they send to a lot of people. Google has a pretty big footprint. And they're, you know, once you get someone responding to you as spam, they say you're spam, it's like you're blacklisted, right? It's very important to blacklist them. But you can also unsubscribe. Some of these sites that you sign up to, you know, they'll keep sending it to you until you unsubscribe from your site. Instead of you going to that actual site and risking losing more data, I always click report spam and unsubscribe, right? And it tells me the conversation has been marked as spam. We'll attempt to unsubscribe you from these emails, and we'll do that on your behalf. Okay, got it? Now, if I ever want to go back to that spam, because maybe I accidentally marked that as spam, right? I could come in here and, you know, here it's still there, right? And then I could say not spam, right? Because I made a mistake, and I want to receive things from Google, I'm sorry, Groupon. And then it's back out of my inbox. Got it?
Got it.
Pretty easy. And, you know, if you train your inbox, every time you see spam, mark it, because it'll clean that up pretty quick, and you will stop getting, you know, all these various emails from Groupon or whoever it might be. Okay. All right, so we got searching done. We talked about advanced search, you know, things that, you know, have an attachment or within a certain date. Pretty easy. We talked about creating signatures. So there's some more training, right? This is not required, but I just want you to see it. There's Gmail tips. And there's a whole bunch of stuff here. I just want to go through some of these. So schedule events right from your inbox, right? So you probably receive emails with dates or times that you need to add to your schedule. So you can add these right from your inbox. And then next to each one of these, we'll give you an instruction on how to do this, okay? So I don't have any in this email address, but recently took a flight. Just show you this real quick. So I got tickets. I flew to Denver and went on Frontier. It was really cheap. I highly recommend them. And what happens is they will send me reservations, okay? Right? So I got this reservation. What happens here is Google recognized immediately that this was actually, you know, a ticket that I'm buying, and it also has a time and a date of when I'm gonna leave. So Google, by itself, anytime it sees these things, it'll automatically, on your behalf, create a calendar event for you. And it put my confirmation, all my data in there. It's really cool. You can stop it, but I recommend, you know, doing that. And again, if there's something here, you know, like dates or stuff, I could then go here and, you know, from this point, I could filter this and, you know, build a filter like we talked about.
So how did, you put this in Google Tips?
Yeah, so these are just little tips and tricks. That's all I'm showing you here. So let me go back real quick.
And where did you get that?
So, you know, back when we were on the Gmail page, right?
Yeah,
You know, 1 through 5 on Gmail. Let me just go back to the top. Okay, getting started with Gmail. These are kind of some advanced tips. So if I scroll all the way to the bottom of this page, there's Get More Training, okay? And it'll be See Gmail Tips. See that?
yeah.
And these are really simple ways to, like, you know, another one, number 2, mute ongoing email conversations that are no longer relevant. So there's the Penlink website. Everybody have Penlink, right? So Penlink is a kind of a mailing list for PDE and all the schools that are there, okay? And last week, you know, obviously everyone's out during the 4th of July and they have out-of-office responders on. Well, someone sent an email to, you know, every school administrator in Pennsylvania, and, you know, I got 90 responses in my email saying I'm out of office, right? Because they're automatically replying all to everybody that sends to, you know, an email to. And so what I did is I muted that, right? And so if you click this, it'll tell you, you know, how to mute it. There's instructions on here. And so, you know, again, if you click the More button, then mute. So if I go back here and really don't want to hear from Groupon Pittsburgh anymore, I can come back and click the More button, and then if I scroll down, there's, you know, a way to mute that here. Actually, I don't have it on here. I'm sorry, it's up here. So you can mute it from up here, okay? And I don't want to mute that. And what that'll do is it'll just stop you from being in that conversation, okay? Let's go back again. You know, things like compose or reply to an email in a new browser window, we kind of showed that before. You know, anytime that I'm in a compose box and it's down here, and I want to pop it out, remember I showed you before, I can click Control and then that arrow button, and it'll pop it out into its own email address.
Yes, he is.
Okay? And that's all that is. Okay, automatically add events to the Gmail calendar. Again, that's what I talked about before. If someone sends you a meeting request or whatever, it'll automatically populate that into your calendar. We won't go over that, it just does it for you. You can automate responses to common types of messages. So these are the canned responses that I talked about. Again, that's within a lab. It gets a little bit more advanced. I'll just show you real quick how that works. So anytime I compose a message, I can create a canned response. So we'll call it test, and this might be some test information. And I can actually save this as a canned response. So right down here is a little button called More Options on the bottom. And if I click over onto canned responses, I'll click New Canned Response. And it'll take the actual email that I just created as a canned response. I'll say OK. And what that does is next time I go to create a message, and I go back to canned responses, I can insert this canned message already, right? Now, you probably won't use that. And again, that's what these tips and tricks are for. I won't go over the rest of these. I'll let you kind of go take a look at those on your own. But there's just some nice, cool little tips and tricks that you can find on this page. And that's it for Gmail. We're going to jump on the calendar. Would you guys like a 5-minute break?
I have
Yeah,
a question.
sure.
I have
Okay.
a question
Yep.
about these tips. I always try to respond to the teachers, so they know that I got their email, and I send, okay, just something really simple.
Yep.
So I can do that as a canned response?
Absolutely. It's a great use for that. Now, you gotta be careful because, you know, if they ask for something and it's, you know, something that you needed to do that was really important, it's gonna send it and you might not even know that it sent it. So you just should be careful about that.
Oh, okay.
And they're gonna take your response as an actual response from you. So you need to be careful. Where I think this is best used is like, again, if we're in HR and we're advertising jobs and, you know, 75 people are gonna apply for a teacher position, right? Instead of sending 75 responses, I'll automatically create a canned response. And I'll create an actual email address like jobs@mplsd.net, right? I wouldn't do it for my own personal account.
Calendar?
Mhm.
I always let my science department know when I'm not going to be available.
Mhm.
So if I put that on my personal calendar, that's gonna show up automatically on theirs, or,
As long as there's calendar sharing, and that's session 2 after we come back from the break.
oh,
Okay. All right, we'll see you in 5 minutes. All right, let's jump back. I'm gonna learn by product, so I'm gonna look for my calendar. Okay. And again, we're gonna jump right into the start from scratch and get started. Again, we have 5 sections, okay? So this isn't gonna take too long, it's about 10 minutes. And we'll start with scheduling events, okay? So I'm gonna actually just jump over into our calendar. And the way I get to my calendar, is right from Gmail, there is a little thing that we call the app picker, okay? It's 9 little boxes that form a box on the top right. Chris said that we should have a cooler name, but we don't. So if you click this is gonna bring up all of the apps that you have available to you, okay? And On the second row, there's an icon that says calendar. Go ahead and click that. This will take you up to your calendar. First thing it'll do, it'll say, here's what's new in calendar. Gmail on your calendar, reservations from flights, restaurants, automatically added from email. Again, you can change this in settings, right? I like it. I use OpenTable all the time to get tables, and it'll automatically throw like my reservation, all that stuff directly into my calendar. As I mentioned before, with flights, it puts it up. I rented a car from Budget, and that automatically showed up with my confirmation number. So it works out pretty well. There's also some new mobile apps, both for Android and iPhone, so check those out. Again, you can download it and get it right here. I'll just say I got it. This brings me into my calendar, right? And again, just some real quick housekeeping. You may be a stickler in terms of what you want this to look like, right? So in this case, I'm on week view, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, okay? You may only want 4 days, or you want a whole month, or you just need to look at your day. And this is the agenda view, right? So it's gonna kind of list what your agenda is for the day. I'm typically pretty comfortable just looking at it for the week, okay? Now, to create an event, there's 2 ways to do it, okay? I can click this create event here and then put the dates in, or I can actually just go to the date, right? And so, if I want something from 8 until 12, I'm just holding down my left button, and I'm selecting how big long I want this meeting to be, okay? So maybe I want it to go down until 12 o'clock, and when I let go, I can choose whether I want this to be an actual event, if I want it to be a reminder, or these are what we call appointment slots. So, these can be used for teachers, during study halls, or, maybe it's after school if they want to offer some extra lab help, okay? They can actually put these appointment slots out there. Those appointment slots will then be available to the students in that class, and the students can actually register for that. That's a little complicated, but I'm gonna just start with an event, and we'll give it a name, and we'll call this the MTLSD demo, okay? And I'm gonna I could just real quickly create that without any details, but what I'll do is I'll click edit event, because I want some real specific details around this, okay? So, first thing is, maybe, when I was creating this, I let go of the button too quick, and I noticed that it stopped at 11:30, okay? And I want this to go till 12, 4 full hours. So I'll go ahead and click 12, I update it. You don't have to worry about time zones. Google actually manages all the various time zones, so if there's someone that you're working with that's, from the West Coast, it'll automatically, manage those 3-hour differences between the 2 time zones. Again, you can do these all day, right, where it'll block your whole day off. Or if it's repeating, so, every Thursday from 8 to 12, right, you can actually repeat this meeting on this specific day, okay? So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna enter a location. And so I know this is gonna be at Mount Lebanon High School, so, oops. As I start typing this in, you can actually see it's starting to pull up addresses from Google, right? So I'll click Mount Lebanon School District, and that actually generates a map for me. So like, for example, if I send this off because I'm having, administrators from different schools come to our school for this conference, when it sends them the invite, right in the invite, it's gonna give them a map with door-to-door directions to get to us, right? It's a really cool way to do that. All right. The other cool thing that we do is we can add a video call, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and click add that. So in this case, maybe it's a conference call, and it's a couple administrators from a couple different schools, and some people might not be able to make it when I give them that map, right? They might say, oh, that's too far, I'm all the way from Philadelphia. In this case, we're gonna bring that person in through a video conference. And as soon as that meeting starts, right within our calendar, my calendar that I'm using, as well as theirs, they click the link to it, and we all get joined together in this video conference, right? No codes, no nothing to worry about. Just go to your calendar, click the link, you're in the conference, okay? And if I have multiple calendars, I can kind of choose the calendar, okay? I just created a demo one here. And so this might be admin meeting to demo a new product, okay? Now, if there's people that I want to add, maybe I wanna add Ross. And as soon as I start typing, his email address comes up. I can click enter. Maybe I wanna have Chris. And I'll add him. And if I click on rooms, if you notice over here, there's all these reservable rooms that are inside your high school, right? So in this case, I want the high school conference room C. And now that's added in there, okay? If I had projectors or anything else like that, laptop carts, I could add those from here. And then those get reserved. So all of the resources in your district actually now become reservable items, okay? Each get a calendar. Now, problem with creating just, this meeting without actually talking to Chris or talking to Ross, I don't know if they're actually gonna be available. So I could go through all this trouble building this invite, and they're not even available. So there's a little button here that says find a time. And what this does is I know when I go to create this meeting from 8 to 12, I'm free, but Chris is busy. He's got, a discussion that he's got going on, right? He's busy. And I know Ross is busy because he's gonna be cleaning up some Gmail stuff, right? So that's just not gonna work. So what I could do is I could say, you know what? There's this gap between 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock, right? Everyone's available. And then I'm gonna go ahead and keep that, okay? So now I know that there's no reason they should be denying my request, okay? Now, before I go on, I can actually embed content inside this invite. So I'm gonna go ahead and say, look, we're gonna have a demo, but I want you guys to read up on this and prepare for it. So I'll go ahead and attach that PDF, because that's what we're gonna talk about during our demo, okay? If I need another attachment, I can go ahead and add it. And I'm very forgetful, so I always like notifications. So I want one, 10 minutes before, but I also want one a day before, right? And I want an email notification. And we'll make this one day. Oops. And we'll change it from minutes to days. So I'll get an email before, and I'm gonna get a pop-up notification 10 minutes before my meeting, right? And in my calendar, I wanna show myself as busy, okay? And I want this to be the calendar default, meaning the visibility is private, okay? If I wanted to make this a public event, I can make it public. Or if I wanted it private, then that's fine. But the calendar default means only the people that are on my team, meaning people at Mount Lebanon School District, can actually see my calendar, right? All my fellow teachers and administrators. All right, and now that I got that done, if I look a little bit further, I could say, you know what? Chris always changing the dates, right? He's always gonna try to suggest some other one, so I could, put modify event, he can modify it, right? So I'm on his team. And then once I'm done, I can go ahead and save, and it'll say, do you wanna send these guest invitations? So what this will do is this will send us an email. I'll go ahead and send it. And those two guys will both get an email.
Because you hit on that email gas over that.
Yeah.
Okay, you kind of missed that.
And then as they respond, I can see it if I open this back up in a minute. I can see that Chris nor Ross has responded. Right, I'm a little jaded about that. And I can also see the high school conference rooms available.
Where did you send it from? You sent it from, when you had the block, it asked you.
It asked me, do you want to send them?
Send it.
So I didn't even write an email, it just sent it based on all the information. And so in a minute, those guys can respond to that. And as soon as they respond, this is then populating here for me. Okay? And that's how you make these calendar events, right? So I'm gonna go back to that calendar. It could be that, you know what, I got the time wrong, and I need to change that to another time. I could actually just grab this and move it over to 2:30. And it says, would you like to send updates? Yeah? I could send them, or not send them, or cancel it, and I'll go ahead and send them. So now, I've moved the meeting. They're probably gonna cancel because they're busy at that time. But nonetheless, I wanted to see, you can actually just move this anywhere on your calendar. Now, if I want to move this over to Saturday at 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm gonna go ahead and not send that one because they're gonna get a whole bunch of emails, but that's how that whole thing works. And I can also realize that, this is, it's not gonna happen, this meeting's not gonna work, I can come up here and I can delete this altogether. Got it? Now, the other thing I can do is I can duplicate my event. Okay? And I can move this for another day. And I'm not gonna send it. But I brought this, event and I duplicated it, because a lot of times there might be things where you have, kids in study group sessions or whatever, and, it gets pushed back, so you could duplicate it, move it to another day, okay? And then if I'm done with it, I'm done with it. So you can move these things around. Does everybody understand how to create events? Okay. Good job. Okay, so we created an event. We've invited people, we reserved rooms and resources. We've chosen some times. We've saved them and we've updated them.
Someone sends you an event, someone is at.
So Chris, are you on right now?
Mhm.
Can you create an event and send me?
Yep.
And I get that event, just so you know. Oh, so Chris tentatively accepted it. Ross did accept it. Thank you, Ross. And I know who's coming to my meeting. Okay. He's going to create an event, and I'll see what that looks like inside my email.
Thank you for declining.
What's that?
I actually clicked remove, just to see what that would do.
Oh, it says declined on my end.
The Exchange was tricky. Exchange would let me remove it without sending a notice.
Oh,
Because I used to get vendors all the time that would send me 10-minute calendar appointments. I'm like, the nerve. I just delete and I didn't send it to them. So I still have to invite you. And that's it.
okay.
Send.
So it'll be here momentarily. Okay, there it is. So I got an invitation. This is what it looks like. So it tells me when it's happening, where it's at. So I know it's in F207 Tech Conference Room, right? Who it's with, Chris. And I look at my agenda for the day, right? So I know 3 p.m. is pretty wide open for me. I'm actually pretty good. And all I'd have to do is I can say yes, maybe, or no. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and accept it. And now, when I get back to my calendar, it populates here. It's on my calendar.
As soon as you said yes, it's sent.
It's on all of our calendars, yes.
And then I got an email that said accepted.
And it's a really nice way, especially in an organization of this size, to one, have calendar sharings, but two, to be able to interact in that way, by scheduling resources and times, updating calendars, kind of automatically. It's a very powerful tool. Now, let me show you one more thing. If you click on My Calendars, okay, a couple things to note here is if I click this drop-down box, I may want to create a calendar. I mentioned before I coach, okay? My people I work with, they don't care that I'm coaching, okay? I got basketball practice tonight. So I could create a new basketball calendar, and I'm gonna share it just with kids that are on my team and the parents, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and click Create New Calendar, and I'll call this my basketball calendar, right? And I'll give it a description, 7th and 8th grade basketball. And it says share this calendar with others, right? So in this case, I could either make it public, right, because I want people to see it, or I could share it specifically with certain specific people, right? So in this case, let's just assume Ross has a son, and his boy plays on my team, so I'll send it to Ross. okay? And then I'll also send it to Chris, because he has our center, as his son. And the permission settings are over here, right? So I gotta be very careful. I could just allow them to see events, or I could allow them to make changes and manage sharing. So again, this afternoon when we have secretaries in here, or if you have any secretaries where you wanna delegate to allow them to make, calendar events for you, you could actually go in and share your calendar with that secretary and allow them to make changes and manage sharing. In this case, I don't want them to do that, right? I just want them to see all event details. Okay? And that's how that would work. And once I'm done, I go ahead and click Create Calendar. Just change that. Those guys. Okay, I just want him to see all event details. It's really strange. Hang on 1 second.
You know what, it's good that
Why?
both Chris and I are super at.
Super admin.
Yeah.
Okay, if it were someone else, those options would be selected.
I
Oh,
found
that's
it.
what it is.
I
We
found
found
that
that
out
out
the
before,
other
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But anyway, that's how that works. And now these guys will then get that calendar in their calendar, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and click Create Calendar. And you'll see there'll be, these calendars that will then pop up. And there's my basketball calendar. And again, anytime I wanna create a basketball event, right? I'm gonna switch that from my main calendar to my basketball calendar, right? We'll call this practice. And I don't even have to add the guests, because they all have this calendar, right? And so I'm gonna go ahead and save it.
This is a big shift from before.
And then I click basketball. And see, that's the thing. I don't have to put this all on there. And furthermore, the only people that see this basketball calendar are me and my team, and the parents. But this my name, Cloudcast here, right? That would normally be, John Piscasio, right? But we made this account just as a demo account. So this would say, Ross or Chris or whoever it might be. That's your main personal profile, and that's shared with your team that you work with, okay? Personal ones are not shared. They're specific to you and whoever you give permissions to use. Does that make sense? And you can layer these on there. Now, there's these other calendars. So if there's a coworker's calendar I want to add on here, like Ross, I can click Ross, and all Ross's stuff's going to pop up on that calendar. Does everyone see that? This is nice if you have a team of people that you need to kind of group all their calendars together. You're able to do that. So if I want to undo this and I just see mine, that's all I got. But if I want to load it back on there, because I'm planning my week out, it's a great way to kind of manage schedules of people
So
around.
how do you share your calendar with somebody else, or have somebody else share theirs with
It's a
you?
good question. So if it's not shared with you already and you ask them to share it, you just go to the actual calendar in the calendar list, okay? You click the drop down and there'll be share this calendar. Take a look at that. See it?
Under my calendars, or?
Yeah, so like
Hit the,
you actually have to hit
plus next to my calendars.
the little
Yeah.
button, it'll be a
Oh,
drop
I
down
see.
that appears. See it?
Mhm.
And then you click share this
Should
calendar.
be next to the purple one. That will drop down here. Yep, that one.
Got it? And so when I click that, that's where it allows me to share it out with other people. And again, these are the levels of permissions, right? If it's someone that you want to manage your calendar for you, give them make changes and manage sharing. If you want someone to just make changes to events but not be able to change the sharing, or if you want them to just see the details, you may have a superintendent that says, you know what, I don't want everybody seeing exactly what's on my schedule. I just want them to see if it's free or I'm busy. And then you can come down here and just click see only free busy. That way, when I pulled up Ross's calendar, I actually saw what Ross was doing. He may not want that, right? And so he may change that to see only free busy. Because it's shared, you get it?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. All right. So you can view and restore deleted events. So like if you've accidentally, you know, thrown something in the trash, right? You just go to the calendar, you open the calendars list, hover over the calendar, and then you click the down arrow for the trash. So let's just say we delete something here. Let's get rid of Ross's calendar. And maybe I'm gonna delete this. Okay? I'll delete and update guests and it's gone. Okay? So, you know, I do have the ability to go back to that calendar. Oops. And view trash. Right? Everyone see that? So I clicked the drop down right next to it that appeared. View trash. And then these are the things that I've deleted. So I could just click this and restore deleted events. Got it? I'll give you a second to take a look at that. All right. So I'll restore it. We'll go back. And then it's back there. Okay? That's how you restore them. All right. Adding reminders, right? So there's two different kinds of reminders. There's event, you know, notifications. Those are the reminders that I showed you before where, you know, we create an event and, you know, it's going to give you an alert, whether that's an email or a notification. But there's things called personal reminders. These are like your to-do lists, okay? So I could anywhere go ahead and click an event and I'll put a reminder in here. So this could be, you know, remind me to take the garbage out. And I know it's gonna be, you know, very early in the morning and I don't get home till late, so I'll do it at 3:30 a.m. And I'm gonna repeat this because I get garbage done every week. Right? So we'll repeat it. 5 occurrences, or in this case, I'm gonna do it 52 weeks. And I'll click done. Create.
How did you get to that event again?
So I find anywhere that I want to put it on my calendar. So let's say it's Thursday at 2 a.m.
Yeah,
I just click it.
okay,
And then it says, do you want an event, a reminder, or an appointment slot?
gotcha,
Okay?
Mhm.
So I just clicked reminder, and I built it from there. Now, I just want to show you this. See how there's a little button right here? Okay? See where the finger is? It's like marking it as done. Once I'm done with it, I can mark it as done, and it goes up into the list as done. Completed event. Make sense? Now, if you have an Android phone, Android has a product called Google Keep, and anything you create in Google Keep automatically gets put in there as well. So it's a nice little to-do list. One more thing I'll mention, back in your email, there's a thing called tasks, right? And so like these might be little events, things that I need to do. So take out garbage, feed dog, dry cleaning, whatever, okay? So I can make as many of these lists as I want. And I could put due dates by these, right? So I'll just go ahead and open this out.
Where
And so,
where did you find that?
Where do we find tasks?
so see where the mail drop down is?
Yeah.
Ours is
Yeah.
There's contacts and tasks.
Ah.
Do you see that? Okay. So I might want to do this for Thursday, and I'm done. I just go back to my list. And so I put a due date by that. Now when I go back to my calendar, if I scroll down here, and I'm going to switch to tasks, I now have a take out garbage with a checkbox. See that? So that's going to appear on my calendar as well. Does that make sense?
Where did you find tasks on the calendar?
So in your calendars,
I've got reminders.
yeah, reminders. Click on reminders. Because reminders and tasks are the same thing. You could say switch to tasks. It's all about what do you want to call it. You call it tasks or reminders.
So I don't have to use Post-it notes anymore to tell me what I'm gonna do the next
And I
day.
think tasks, by the way, I'm an advocate of tasks because inside, you know, you do it right from your Gmail, okay? You can have multiple lists, so let me just open this up and show you. So there's a plus button, we can add more, but right here on the far right, I create a new list, and I usually do it by like week, right? You know, if it's like week 1 of school. I'll say okay. And then I, you know, these are tasks that I have for this week. And I can always toggle between these, right? So now when I go back to action, you know, there's, you know, I can move things up or down, I can sort it by due date, I can, you know, clear lists out. And let me give you another example. I'll create a new list. Week 2. Now when I go back in here, there's week 1 or week 2, so I can toggle between these. See what I'm saying? And anything I put a date to, it's gonna show up inside my calendar. Actually, it's a little confusing between reminders and tasks, okay, you know, but it's because there was a new product that was built called Google Keep, they call it reminders. So that's how that whole thing worked. Tasks was the original one, and it works seamlessly. Okay?
Okay, so I'm trying to make a task.
Yep.
I put week 1.
Mhm.
Where do I type the task? Right in that?
Right in the box.
Instead of week 1, I type the task.
Yeah, so like, let me type it for
And
you.
where does it go? I
So
mean,
make lesson plan,
Okay,
okay? And if I need to put a due date by it, I'm gonna click the arrow, right? And then, you know, maybe make lesson plan is due on the 14th. Any notes, you know, FOIL technique. Okay. And if there's like, maybe I should have put that in week 2, I can actually move it to week 2, so I'm not going to. And that's it, there's no save button, just go back to your list. So now if I go back to my calendar, and I switch this to tasks, that will populate here. I'm gonna remember what day I put it on. Let's see. Make lesson plan, Thursday, July 14th. Okay. And add those. It's not showing up right now, for some reason it's being difficult, but it does. Oops. Okay, never mind. There we go. All right. All right, we'll move on. So you can set up default event notification settings, right? So if you go back into your calendars and you click the gear button and click on settings, there's a whole bunch of settings here, okay? And so you can kind of scroll down through and look at these different things, but you know, there are ways inside the calendar, if you click on the calendar tab, to, you know, set your default notifications. So from my main calendar, I can create these global notifications and how they work. So I'm gonna go ahead and click edit settings, and for every notification, just by default, you know, maybe I want an email one day before, okay? And if I wanna add more notifications, you know, like I want a notification 10 minutes before, okay. And then I come back and I save. And that way, you know, for any event that gets created from my main, you know, calendar, it is going to give me those various notifications. So I'll get an email and I'll get a notification. All right. Let's scroll down a little bit. So add, change, or remove event notifications. You know, again, I can just go down here and let's just say from the calendar, I created an event. We'll open it up. And so we have these notifications that are here, right? You can just go X next to them. And that way no one's gonna get a notification.
Where's that again?
It would be on an event that you created. So you'd have to create an event. Okay? And then after you create the event, you would then go ahead and put notifications in, and if you wanted to delete those notifications, you would actually just click delete next to them. Understand? Let me do it one more time? Yeah? Okay. So I got an event right here, right? I put notifications in there,
Okay.
right? So I'm gonna open this up. And I don't wanna be notified. Maybe I have a meeting before, right? I don't want it to bother me, so I don't want an email or, I don't want a desktop notification. There's an X by both of these.
Okay,
So if I want to delete them, I just delete it. I click X.
okay,
See that?
yeah.
Gone. Save, done with. All right, let's jump back. Okay, we talked about reminders and tasks, right? Those are really the same thing. Okay, we talked about sharing. And again, it's just for the sake of it, if there's any calendar like that basketball calendar that I need to share, I click the down button next to it, and then I click share this calendar, and then I specify who I want to share it with by entering their email, right? And I'm also gonna say, what type of, do they manage it, or do they just see it, right? Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, you might want to view other people's calendars, and I showed that before, but let's just do it again. So, if I want to see Ross's calendar, or I want to see Chris's calendar, what's your name? What's your email address?
SCALLAHAN,
Oops.
sorry, SC, oh, Sandra,
SC,
ALLAHAN, there it is.
okay? So if I want to see your calendar, right, you're in a Google training right now. I've been able to populate on my screen by clicking under the other calendars, add a coworker's calendar. I just type your email address in, and it's gonna populate. If I don't wanna look at it anymore, I unclick it, okay? If I wanna look at it, I click it. So think of this as a slate you can layer multiple calendars on.
But I didn't give you permission to do that.
What do you work here?
So
That's what this is all about.
I
This
could
is about
see
sharing.
Joel's on mine if I wanted to.
Yeah, the whole point is that we want all administrators to see each other's calendars so you know where you're at.
But I'm
So if I'm scheduled, let's say
I'm
I'm
the
your-
secretary then.
Let's say I'm your boss,
Okay,
okay? I need to know where you are,
okay.
right? So your boss, just think of it that way. Anyone that's your superior is gonna know exactly where you are and what's on your calendar, okay? A student may not know your calendar, but a boss, a superior would, okay?
Aren't the calendars though supposed to be busy only unless?
You can do for your busy,
I think
yes.
that's what we actually.
Because you have admin,
Yeah, I think we
Right,
turned
is that why
on
he has-
free busy, like
Yeah.
other people will see,
right?
and then if you wanna share specific details. or
Exactly.
sharing rights.
Did we make Cloudcast a super?
He's a super admin.
I'm a super admin, that's why I see it all.
Okay.
Now, what I will say is, usually in like departments, we should talk about this further, but, for like all your OUs, we could actually make policies per OU. So like if you're in an admin, capacity, like if you're someone's superior, you should be able to see everyone that falls underneath your purview, okay? But yes, free busy will work. Okay,
So Sandra, your coworker wouldn't see that you have Friday off, they just see that you were busy on Friday. See how you can see up there, it says
So all the
Friday
science
off,
department can see my calendar now,
that you are busy.
that I am busy.
yeah,
But not with what?
Not why or what you're doing, but they know that Friday, you're not here.
Right.
So I don't have to either email them anymore telling them I'm taking
Nope.
some,
Nope.
this day
You can
off.
just say, yeah, you can just tell them.
I just have to put it on my calendar.
Yeah, as long as you have it on your
Sure.
calendar, and if they wanna know where you are, they can
look
look.
at that calendar.
And how about you? You're looking for me,
I would just type it in, just,
and you can see because you're my
Like
superior.
the little thing to the left.
because I'm in this
Same
network.
domain.
We're all in the same company, organization, domain. So I can look at Dr. Steinhardt, you can look at Dr. Steinhardt and see that he's busy.
Oh,
But not with.
no, because it wasn't like that before.
No,
When I was in the
correct.
supervisor's
Absolutely
office,
not.
it was,
no, but now that, this gives us that opportunity.
oh, okay.
that wasn't really like a capability with Microsoft in that way, right? Of the layering of calendars in this kind of way. This is kind of a novel new idea. And really what it's about to do is, put everybody on the same page. I mean, the whole process of emailing, I'm not gonna be here, that's crazy, right? I mean, it's 2016, right? Okay,
So wait, should their names show up on this, on the left side?
absolutely.
Well, okay, wait a minute.
If you've added them already.
Okay. Maybe I didn't add it.
Is there something else maybe you're confused with I can kind of go over one more time?
I think the difference too is because our accounts are super heavy, they show up under my calendars, I think for them it's gonna show up under other calendars at the bottom.
Yes.
Yeah. I put somebody under other calendar, it's not coming up.
We gotta scroll down and look for them. Here, let me help you.
Oh, there she is, okay, I'm sorry.
All right. So we all got how to view other people's calendars, right? Search other people's calendars, put the email address in. You can even type their first name and last name if you don't know their email address, and it'll come up. Okay? Create a team calendar. This is like that basketball calendar that I created. Remember I showed you that? I'll just do it one more time. So I'm gonna go to my calendars, create new calendar, call it team calendar. And I can give it a description, a location, and I can choose to share this with other people, right? So I usually just share it specifically with certain people. You can share with everyone at Mount Lebanon if you'd like, right? So it could be a school district calendar, or it could be very specific. So in this case, you know, I'll put Ross in there. And then once I've done that, I click create calendar, and we got a team calendar. He can make changes to it, I can make changes to it, we're on the same page, okay? Good use for departments, right? Teams, sports, clubs, you know, maintenance, right? Get everybody on the same page. All right. I showed you calendar view. We also talked about colors. Now, we're pretty much at the end here, so just like inside, you know, Google Apps, there are calendar tips. Yes.
I have a question for you. So what I like to do with it is be able to create, I mean, schools don't work like businesses where 8 to 8:30 doesn't mean anything. I need periods. So one of the things I've asked a couple times is, can we put overlays or can we create calendars where they are structured to follow our period schedule? So that from not, what I don't know, what it is, 8:15 to, what is it? 9:02, that is a block that can be blocked off. Because again, just for, especially for teachers, periods don't matter much, and I know like what my thought is, when I wanna do observations, I want teachers to be able to go in and pick, based on my calendar, when I'm busy and not busy, when they would like me to come in. But again, the period, if it had periods, it'd be easier for teachers, I think. Is
Yeah.
that possible?
So, no, it's, I mean, out of the box, no. So we have an API, so I haven't thought of it. We've integrated it with our student information system, so when we run our master scheduler of the year, it'll actually break it out by period, okay? And so every period, it's listed on a specific time frame. There's an API, if you guys wanna go through that process and, you know, integrate, I don't know what's that student information system you guys use, what is it?
Power.
No, I don't know that you'll be able to do a PowerSchool, but if you can get like, if you can get them to expose an API, you should be able to write something like that.
Okay. What about
Out of the box, no.
What about calendars for the computer lab or those things? Again, it has to be 8 to 8:30, 8 to 9. You can't do periods.
So they have a thing called daylight hours. It's an experimental lab. It's not supported, but you can actually specify those hours. But I never recommend that because any of those labs, specific calendars may or may not work. So you wouldn't want to say, yes, you can do it, and something breaks, then they're going to be mad at me.
Mhm.
The standard answer is, you know, this is a calendar, right? Regardless of a school.
But even that API you were talking about, all that does is put their schedule onto a Google Calendar with real times.
Correct.
It doesn't turn Google Calendar into a period-based calendar.
Absolutely not, no.
It's just the flip. It tries to work on teachers' mindsets towards
Exactly.
time,
Exactly.
which could be, how do you, it's challenging when you have all different schedules.
Yeah, so, I mean, to do it right, you have to actually integrate with your master scheduler, right?
But I mean, like the snow delay, that would jack us all up.
Yeah, so like in our system, what we've done is we have bump days. So every time we have a snow day, we bump the calendar, the full school calendar, and then it bumps everything forward one day. It's a pain in the butt, actually, but I wouldn't use it in that way. I mean, unless you want to get really deep into that stuff. At the end of the day, I mean, how are you doing it now?
Don't want to talk about it.
Okay. Alright,
the most ridiculous, like, I mean, it's emails, right now I'm using Google Sheets, which I'd love to do is do a sheet. I have to go through Sheets, and I set up my 5-day week, and I have to block out based on looking at my calendar when I'm not available. So it's double the work for me, but on the teacher's end, they can see what period
gotcha,
I'm available. So I created it looking like periods that this time I'm available.
I see.
But the paint, like I'd love for it to overlap and be an overlay so that my busy just comes through. I don't have to go through, and whenever I add something to my calendar, it instantly on that sheet updates the same way, so it shows that it's busy in that time frame.
I'll get with you afterwards, there's probably a way to do what you wanna do.
Okay.
I mean, there's an API that exists that you can make that happen, it's just a little bit of work.
Okay.
Okay.
Text up to it, so.
Okay. But these are the tips, I won't go through much of this. You know, one of the things that I will show, see if I can find it. No, it's not on here, but I can get you information that'll help you out. That might be a way to do it, not exactly how you want to do it, but you can actually block off, you could create an individual calendar for each one of those periods, and you could block all other hours out and limit the calendar to that 1 hour. And that would work for what you want to do.
Okay. Yeah, we can talk about
In other words, you could only schedule it for that hour,
it. Mhm.
right? That's what you want to do essentially.
Right, when I'm available is when it is.
Yeah. And so, there's a way to do that. Okay, any questions about calendar? I know we covered a lot this morning. I will, leave my email address if you guys ever have any questions for me. You can obviously contact me through Ross or Chris, and we'd be glad to help. But luckily, you guys have a great IT staff here that, quite frankly, I feel like Ross knows equally as much about this stuff as I do, and Chris as well. So I think you guys are in good hands. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.